about me. I passed the GARP SCR.
Sorry, I need to start a recording.
It's okay. So I passed the GARP SCR exam in April this year and made a career shift into sustainability. I have worked at the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, and currently I'm working at Mazars in their ESG and sustainability team. So before this exam, I had no background in sustainability. I had no clue what it was. So it was a bit tough for me, but the informative and the great content gave me a good understanding of the sustainability risk field. And like, I'm just glad I took this exam. That's it. Thank you. Diksha, we can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I was on
Yeah.
mute. So I wanted to understand that what changes you saw once you or after the you gave the exam and everything. Like, did it change your career transition? Did you like transition your career from something?
Right. So I was working in my family business since 4 years, and I really had passion for sustainability, and wanted to move in this field. So I did a lot of research, like what should I go for, which exam should I appear for, what should I study. So I had these two options: GARP SCR and CFA ESG investing course. And GARP SCR, I was told by people who had passed this exam that this is a more basic exam and something more that will give you a basic knowledge of the whole field, sustainability field. So yeah, I opted for it, and I was very happy with all the content of the exam, and it was really good. And after that, I started working at the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. And even like, yeah, this exam does help you get jobs if you're anyone is opting for the exam for that. And yeah, it's very helpful for your knowledge also. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Twinkle. We look forward to learning more insights from you, and thank you for preparing presentation for us. Um, and for Rajesh sir as well. Rajesh sir will join. He's from joining from Amsterdam. So he'll take some time. Till the time he join, can we have introduction round for one minute? Like you can just introduce yourself, where you work, and just a little bit about you, so that because we will be shifting you into breakout room to answer few questions and give insights into it, so you need to know each other before going into breakout room. So can anybody start? Vidhi, you can start. Vidhi is from my team. Vidhi and Stuti joined sustainability 101 last month, so let's start with them.
Yeah, sure, Pratiksha. Hi, everyone. I'm Vidhi Kaur, and I also worked in Council on Energy, Environment, and Water, and I know Twinkle Gupta from there. And now I'm working with Pratiksha. We are developing some wonderful boot camps, which is coming up soon. And I'm working as a sustainability analyst with S101. So that's about me. Small introduction.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, Sriti. I am a recent graduate. I'm an engineer, chemical engineer, and I joined Pratiksha this month, last month itself, and it's been really wonderful working with her. We are coming up with a wonderful boot camp ahead, and this workshop is also something I was actively involved in, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Stuti. Okay, Shivani, do you want to go ahead?
Hi, good morning. Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. I'm actually a law graduate. I've been interested in environmental laws, and towards the end of my studies, I wanted to explore the intersection of environmental law and ESG. So currently, I'm working in the ESG sectors that is specific to real estate. So I'm looking forward to attending this course as well.
Okay. Have you appeared for this exam for this month?
No, 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 no. I actually just wanted to get a brief about the exam and then probably take it forward from there.
Yeah, yeah, that's the right step. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aditya?
Uh, Hi, good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm basically an environmental engineer by qualification. I graduated back in 2016. I currently work with Coal India Limited as an assistant manager. Recently, I did my master's from NUS. So after going there, basically, I came like in close interaction with the already people who are working there in sustainability field. And I found out that the climate risk is a really good sector to work with. And SCR is actually a kind of basically pushes you in that field. So yeah.
Yeah, Aditya. Aditya is also not appeared for this year. He will appear next year. So,
No, I'm giving this month only. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that you didn't apply for it.
I actually applied for the April cycle only, but then I shifted the exam to this October. Yeah.
Wow. Do let us know how it goes for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Deepika, do you want to go ahead? Deepika? I think she's not there. Ritesh?
Hi everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So my name is Ritesh Ganatra. I work for a fintech. It's called Adenza. I work as a as a quality assurance analyst in a forex department, and I have recently completed my FRM certification, and now I'm looking for this SCR certification and having exposure in SCR. Thank you.
Did you appear for this year?
I'll be appearing this year, this month.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ritesh, for joining. Shelly?
Good morning, everyone. So I have a background in climate science and policy, and I've been developing carbon projects for the organizations that I've been working with. I was trying to explore climate risk in the domain itself, and so I wanted to know, what kind of opportunities are in this area, and through the exam, I was going to explore that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelly. Asta?
Hi, Pratiksha.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So, Asta here. I am currently working with Sonata Software. I am ESG sustainability lead there. I have 4 years of work ex in sustainability domain. I have did my MBA also in same background. So this exam is after 4 years. I wanted to continue my education in the same. So this exam was one of the options, CFA or this. So I wanted to start from this and then go ahead. And when I was studying on this, I got to know that there is still a lot of more things that I also don't have that much knowledge. For example, the climate risk value assessment, things related to financial background. So yeah, I wanted to attend this class and look forward to interacting with you all.
Thank you, Asta, for joining. Deepika, yeah, you can go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was getting down from auto. Good morning.
No problem. Good morning. Do
Yeah,
you have office today?
yeah, actually. My name is Deepika. I'm working with IndusInd Bank as Chief Manager. And Anand Mahajani happens to be my uncle who suggested to me to do this course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So I just want to understand a new area which actually is going to be the way forward.
Okay, fine. So you did not appear for this exam.
Yeah, I have not.
Okay.
So I want to prepare.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Deepika, and thank you, Anand sir, if you are listening. Natasha?
Hey everyone, morning.
Yeah.
My name's Natasha. I come from a finance background. I worked in Deloitte in audit for 3 years. I'm currently exploring the different fields I have available to me, and I think this course is really perfect for me to just explore sustainability and maybe take the exam next year. So yeah, excited to learn.
Yep, even I'm taking this exam next year. Uh, Akshara? Yes, Akshara, you guys can talk if you want to.
Yeah, hello everyone. Firstly, apologizing because I joined late.
No worries. There's
So,
no punishment.
yeah. So, I'm an ESG manager at SBI General Insurance, and I am also a PhD candidate researching in the ESG domain. So, I gave this exam last year. While preparing for it, the book was easier to understand for me. However, when I gave the exam, I just realized that whatever has been given in the book, I don't think that I wasn't able to comprehend while reading the questions during the exam. So there was something I I think it was, I have to read further between the lines. That's how I felt when I gave it last year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I think after that, I was like, I should prepare first because it's a costly exam, and then I'll go ahead with the another shot.
Okay, so you did give this exam.
Yes, I gave it last year.
Okay, how was it?
So I think practice paper, if we practice the practice paper that has been given by the SCR, I think we need to practice more on that so that we get much more acquainted with what sort of questions that they can give. So what I have observed was जो लिखा है वो दिखता नहीं है during the question in the question paper. That's what I observed. Like while I was reading the book, but when I saw the question, I was like, अरे ये book में कब दिया, ये book में कब बात करा.
Okay. So they gave such examples like this. You are a managing director of this company and you have an ESG investment coming. So like that, right? Those kind of questions are tricky, right?
Maybe yes, it was sort of that. I don't remember it because it's been 1 year now.
Okay. Fine. No worries, Akshara. Thank you so much. We would need your help if somewhere we stuck while teaching or learning from each other. So please be open.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. I think I was just going this way, but somebody joined, so the track has changed. I think Someshwar sir, can you go ahead?
Yes, definitely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Someshwar Chakrabarti, and I work for an investment bank. I have more than 21 of experience. So the story goes like in our bank, we have 7 type of traditional risk. But recently, when I checked the report, I saw that there is one more report included in those 7 type of traditional risk, that is a climate risk, and that's how I become inquisitive about what's happening in this we never heard of, and what's our bank is doing about that. So that's how I started reading, and yeah, I liked it. It is a little different from what I'm doing in operations. So yes, I have enrolled for October exam, and I'm very nervous. That's why I joined this, so to check whether I'm alone or there are more people like me. So yeah, so studying after a long time, so need some guidance. So that's how like I want to pursue.
Don't worry, we have people who can help you. Even I can try to get people on board to help you as well. Because I know that recently from I think Abhishek sir is from DWS. So Abhishek sir is Abhishek Mittal sir, can you speak?
Hi, Pratiksha.
Hi, can you just introduce yourself so that Someshwar can feel better?
Yeah, so I also work for an investment bank, and I have been in this ESG domain for at least 5-6 years, and I was at least the second batch on the SCR, which was introduced. So it was very new at that point of time, and at that point of time, my objective, and rightly so, was to just study and not to think about exam. And I think this is the approach which should be taken. Just enjoy the study material so that it could be applied to your work profile. Read each and every line and try to understand it. And once you understand the concept behind that, whatever form the questions comes, you should be able to understand this. And somebody was telling that it is a bit technical. It's rightly so, because the first chapter, the basics of science and other things, are basically coming from IPCC, which is coming from scientific background. So at least half of us would be from finance background who must have not heard about the scientific terms. So it's difficult to comprehend. But if you just read this material for 3 times, I think you will be good enough. But trust me, it has been 3 years for me with this. And still, whenever I'm stuck in any of these concepts, I go through them and go and read that. But basically, it's a collation of the publications which has been done over the past years over these chapters. So it's not that the study material has been curated specifically for us. It's just a publications of the best practices and the thought leadership work which has been done in this area. So it's a collection of that. So that's my experience while giving this exam, and happy to take any questions.
Okay, okay, Abhishek sir, thank you. So, okay, anybody else? Anand, Arun?
I can go, Pratiksha. First of all, Pratiksha, good to connect with you on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you.
I've been on around sustainability for over 11, 12 years in my 28-year career. I've been consulting customers on sustainability, ESG related data management, reporting requirements, data strategy in terms of whatever they want to do to build a data management practice. And I haven't been through any certification. I understand all these are probably value added certifications, and wanted to go through this course to know certain things probably which I may be missing from a basic science behind, as somebody earlier was mentioning. Was trying to understand that. Fundamentally, I'm a sustainability practitioner, been consulting global customers. I have a role in Tata Consultancy to deliver to my global customers. We'll be happy to share what we see as trends in the market. And I'm really curious to know what is this GARP exam. I haven't seen even a paper on GARP. I don't know how is the exam structured. I don't know what is really expected. And I don't know how much will I score if I take the exam today. So all that is few curiosities with which I am
Yeah,
into this course.
you don't have to take it right away. It's okay. We can all take it. If you are missing out on something, I am also missing out on a few things. So we will take it in the April 2024. No problem. Okay.
That's a nice point. Is that once in a 6 month exam, once in a year exam? How is this GARP exam?
I think Anand, Rajesh sir have a PPT prepared, so
Okay.
he is going to give whole gist of how
Sure.
SCR
Perfect.
works. So I have told him to create that. And if yes, it is in April and in Jan one, in April and October, or is there anything?
April and
It's
October.
April and October. Yeah, you can appear it for 2 times a year.
Cool.
Do we still have a chance to apply for this October?
No, the
No.
registrations
It's
are
over.
closed for October.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Prashant sir.
Yeah, hi
Hello.
everyone.
Oops.
Hi.
We have two Prashants, I guess.
Sir, we are not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Hello?
now we can.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Prashant Nahar. I work in investment bank. I've been working on ESG reference data for almost 2 to 3 years. Primarily, I now work on liquidity risk, which is now getting impacted due to climate risk as well. So the idea is to get certified so that I can, contribute meaningfully in the climate liquidity risk space, because a lot of the climate risk factors are going to hit both credit risk as well as liquidity risk for the firms. So that's the idea.
Okay. Okay. I think who's missing? Isha is missing. Prajas is missing. Missing? Can you please introduce yourself so that we can start? It's 9:30 already.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi, Isha.
Yes, so I used to work before in the derivatives industry, but then I switched 1.5 years back to sustainability. So right now I work in Morningstar as a research associate. So I have an experience in EU taxonomy research as well and controversial product research as well. So I was kind of looking forward for SCR and I have applied it for this month only so that I can get to know more about the climate risk that's there, because I think SCR is a huge concept, like sustainability in general. So I kind of wanted to know that more and grow my career in sustainability.
Okay, fine.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Hi, this is Vinesh here. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi. Hi everyone. I have about 16 years of experience, and I started as a risk management consultant. Now I work for a bureau and a tech firm, and majorly dealing with the risk technologies for the banks. So just wanted to understand the climate risk aspects and see how it is related to the, the area that I'm working with. So that's the objective I joined for this course, and I'm not sure if I apply for this exam. More about I'm looking for the knowledge and how I can apply this in my job. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, fine. No problem. Who is missing?
Hello.
You please talk. Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah,
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I'm Johnny. I've got 15 years of experience in financial reporting, financial planning, and strategy. So sustainability is very new for me. So currently, I work with SDFC AMC in ESG domain. One thing I want, I've never, I've just heard of this course, but just one suggestion: I played CFA in ESG investing. So there actually, I had opted for one firm wherein they had given us the mock questions, around 400 questions on paid basis. So I would request if you can also, going forward, if you can also design those mock questions for us, that would be helpful, because I have heard that this course is very tough. That's what my suggestion is. Thanks.
Okay. Rajesh?
Hello, Pratiksha, can I go ahead? It's Arun over here.
Yeah, Arun, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I was being outside. There will be a little noise. Actually, I'm part of Pharma and Mansis supply chain auditing team. For the past 6 years, I'm part of this team, and we used to audit our suppliers for the business continuity risk, which will arise from climate, which will arise from labor, health and safety, environment, everything. And one of my friend who is part of Hyundai supply chain team has pointed out this course, and we both together planning to take this exam next year.
We could not hear you properly, but yeah, you can try drafting it in the chat box. Okay. Venugopal sir or Rajesh, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can go. Good morning, everyone. I'm Venu. I'm leading the sustainability initiatives at Saint Gobain, and looking forward to learning more about the exam. So it's there on my checklist. So I want to clear it off maybe next year. Look forward to the learning session. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Rajesh.
Yeah, good morning.
Hi.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Prajesh. Hello. Actually, I'm basically an environmental engineer. Previously, I had attended the ESG boot camp. So previously, I was working in GR Infra Metro project. Now, recently, this week, I have switched to sustainability consultant job in Conserve Consultants, Bangalore. So, wanted to know more about this course and even exam.
Okay.
So, just attending.
Rajesh, so you previously
Hello.
were there in one of the ESG boot camp, right? Hello. Okay, no worries. I think he lost a bit. Okay, can we shall we start? You can give us a go ahead. Rajesh sir is still not here, so we will take up that what is GARP, how it is everything. So we will take up in second half. But yeah, Twinkle, we can start with chapter 1. And if you guys don't have a ESG book, don't worry. Chandan sir will upload it in the drive and then I'll pass it to you. Chandan sir, will you do that, please? Because I don't have a copy right now with me.
Yeah, I will do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, Twinkle, can you go ahead with the chapter 1?
Yeah, sure. So Pratiksha, who is sharing the screen for chapter 1? Just wanted to check.
Yeah, I can share my screen. Do you want
Yeah.
me to?
Yeah, can you please do that? Great.
Vidhi, can you do one thing? Because I am already getting one person on board. He's from Dubai. He's not able to join. So can you share your screen, Vidhi? What do you want us to share, Twinkle?
Chapter
Yeah,
1, I guess
Twinkle.
it will be good for everyone to see what the chapter includes.
So you want me to share the syllabus content of the chapter 1?
That whole chapter, you have the SCR ebook, right?
No.
No, I don't have it.
You don't have it. Stuti have
Oh.
it. Stuti, can you
Yes.
share your screen?
Oh, yeah, just give me a minute. I'll share.
Yeah, I'll just onboard this guy, okay? Thank you.
Sure. Till then we can, I guess, just start seeing for all the ones who are preparing for October exam. Like I have a bit of few tips that I got to know like during my exam in April. First tip that I would give is like please make notes. It's very helpful in the last minute revisions. So do make notes. Also, there are a lot of closely related words in GARP SCR. Like there is green bond, climate bond, like a lot of terms which you think that they are the same, but there is minute difference in those terms. So just be clear with those difference because GARP SCR does put questions on that. And there's no questions on the current affairs, so you need not to be worried about that. And just focus on the GARP SCR book and the required readings they have provided. About the required readings, you don't need to read it and focus it as much as the main SCR book, but just go through it once. It would be good because there are 1 or 2 questions based on that. What else?
So,
yeah.
Twinkle,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yes.
one question. So, do you know how much weightage each chapter carries? Is it equal? I don't think it's equal because I have gone through chapter 5, 6, and it seems like those are more important compared to chapter 4 or say 3. So, do you know how much weightage each chapter carries?
Yeah, there's almost equal weightage for every chapter except the last net zero chapter. That has, I guess, 6 to 8 question. Others do have 8 to 12 questions. There's no fixed number of questions that GARP has provided, but yeah, they do cover equal
Oh,
weightage.
it's equal.
Yeah, that's why all the chapters are very important, even the first and second, third, which are very basic.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
And yeah, about the practice paper, someone did mention who had appeared last time and did not check the practice paper. So definitely check the practice paper provided by GARP because the whole exam is very different from what the questions they have given in the SCR book. Like in the SCR book, there are straightforward questions, while a whole 80 questions of GARP SCR are practice oriented questions. Like there will be always a situation that you are a manager in this organization, this is the situation, what would you do then? So yeah, do practice, see the practice paper to get an overview of the actual exam. And we do have few similar questions for you to practice in the end of the session. So yeah, don't worry about that. So yes, now we can start with the first chapter, that is Foundations of Climate Change. What is climate change? So you see there are this learning objectives in the beginning. So there's one way of preparing for the exam that you can learn through each of this learning objective, like define climate change, differentiate between the weather climate. Then you can assume this is a question and look for answer for this. That is one way. So I guess we have already taken 30 minutes, so I will go through the content quickly. Yeah. So introduction to the problem. In this section, you need to be clear what weather is and what is climate, the difference between them. That I'm sorry, I'm not really aware. You need to know what exactly climate change is. That climate change is the long-term difference in the stats of weather over multi-decadal periods. That is like more than typically 30 years. Also, it is mentioned here that climate change is referred as global warming mostly, but you should know that there is a difference between climate change and global warming. Global warming is only about temperature, while climate change is about various other things like sea level, precipitation. So this is like a very basic introduction of weather and climate, but you need to read it still. Just read every line of it because you know how GARP SCR exam is not just checking your knowledge. Like we all know what weather is, we all know what climate is. Still, you can't skip this part because they will check your knowledge on every word of it. Like you need to go through every line and every word of this book. Moving to the second part, that is observation of climate change, modern climate change. So this topic covers how it has been proved that the earth is warming, and like is there any proof that earth has warmed. So there have been various data sets that confirm warming of the earth. Sorry. And even with the warming, if we see the impacts of warming, that is melting of ice, rise in sea level, that also proves that the earth has warmed. And there's one important section in this part, that is the rise in sea level, how the sea level is rising. There are two ways contributors to the rise in sea level, that is melting of ice and thermal expansion. So that is something we need to learn and clearly read about. Just want to check if the speed is fine with you, or I should move slowly. Like,
No, I'm comfortable with the speed. Thank you.
or you have like very sore throat and a fever. So yeah, moving to climate change before humans. So yeah, climate change is not a 1 year or 2 year thing. It's like it has taken several years, like million of years. And back then we didn't have thermometers to check and present technology to check the temperature. And like if we want to see what was the weather or climate like 700 years ago or millions of years ago, so there are few ways in which we can still know the temperature of early times. That is through tree rings, corals, perithiums, ice cores, ocean sediment cores. So these are detailed versions of how we can look at this material and estimate the climate of millions of years ago and compare it to the present climate to understand the climate change that has happened. Then there are a few causes of climate change. The first is energy balance. So the energy balance is the balance like what the sun is the heat sun is sending to the earth, and what's earth is radiating back to this outer space. So it needs to be a balance to have a like balanced climate and a perfect climate. But since present of the greenhouse gases and other variants in the atmosphere, the heat that the earth is sending back to the outside of the space is very less than what it is getting through sun. So the heat gets trapped in the atmosphere, which disturbs the balance of the earth, and that is leading to the warming of the planet. Then we have the famous greenhouse effect. The greenhouse gases we are aware of, how it traps the infrared radiation, which heats up the planet. So as the number of gases increases in the atmosphere, it traps more heat, which leads to more rise in temperature. So the important greenhouse gases is, we all know about CO2, NTO, but what was very, I'm sorry.
Twinkle, you can have water. If you can have water. Abhishek sir, can you take up this part, like if till the time she joins?
So I'm just traveling a bit, so you will find background noise. So I'll just cover the part which the earlier instructor has covered. So when you are reading, right, so you should understand that this is a possible case of an MCQ question. For example, the sea level rise. The sea level rise, there are 4 to 5 reasons of sea level rise, thermal expansion, and then what is the most important one is the changes in the ground level. The water which we take from the ground level and end up through the drainage to the sea. So this is one of the concepts where you can get an MCQ question that these are the 5 questions, 5 options through a case study. Which one is not a cause for a thermal expansion? I mean the sea level rise. So you should have a notes of this, that what are the reasons, 4 to 5 reasons for the sea level rise. And then we are talking about the GHG emissions. So first of all, you need to understand the basics, that how many types of gases are there. So CO2 is one. And then there is a concept of GWP. I mean, many of you would be working. I don't know the technical aspects of them, but the potency of the many of the gases are 100 times higher than CO2. So there is a definite question on that, which indirectly or indirectly form this GWP concept will definitely come to your exam. That first of all, if a company has this much of CO2, this much of other gases, then which gas forms part of your under Paris Agreement and which gas don't part of the Paris Agreement, and the GWP is correct or not correct. So these are the kind of stuff. But given being the technical aspect of that what is the greenhouse effect, there is one more concept that which comes in the MCQ, and I have seen that coming couple of times, is the ozone layers. That the ozone layer, at which level you see that the ozone layer is getting the effect of the human impact. In general, what happens that the sun comes, then the first layer and the second layer and the third layer. So how which one is cooler and which one is warmer. So you need to take a note of that what are the 3 layers in general, which layer you will see cooling and which layer you will see hotter. And because of the human impact, how you see that is changing a bit. So while reading this chapter, the basic notes. So while go through the basic notes, you need to see and make a note of each and every point here, and not that in 1920 this was the sea level and today it has risen by 3 millimeter. Not those kind of stuff, but the technical stuff, that what are the reasons for increasing, why the wildfires are happening, and the reasons for that, and what are the externalities. So if we say that does the climate change has an impact because the cold area will get further cold. So how many of you think that this can be a reason of climate change? That the hotter will get more hotter, the colder will get more colder, and the region which are getting more rains are expected to get more rains. So
that's part of the physical risk, right?
Yeah. So the climate, see, I mean, I don't want to leap into the 2 other chapters, but we need to understand the concept of transition risk and physical risk. And transition risk is coming out of physical risk. So if we understand these basic chapters first, then it will help you in your job to an extent where 90% of the people doesn't even agree that climate change is done by human beings. So many of your job will be into consultancy, or even in your own individual profile, you need to engage with people and convince them that there is a reason for climate change and why we are working here. So if you understand these basics, yeah, please.
Yeah, so what I just wanted to add, like I have read where humans are, so there is no percentage that humans are 100%. So it's most likely we are responsible. But nobody is saying that numbers, that this percentage or this human are responsible. Because, you know, few factors, because I was reading one use case where they explained that in Africa, elephants are herbivorous and they're on top of the food chain. And, you know, for a tree to grow, it takes almost 10 to 15 years. But for elephant to destroy the tree, it takes only 1 day. even few hours. So I think in Botswana or Namibia, that elephant population is so high that they destroyed the whole forest, and because of they destroy the whole forest, the people migrated from that area. Then ecological balance and even the country's economy got affected. So that's how people are saying that most likely humans are responsible. But in this case, human are not responsible. It was the
Okay.
elephants. Yeah. So just wanted to like know, do you agree, or like is there any other?
No. So there are scientific evidences which proves, and I personally agree to that humans are responsible. So if you see the industrialization, right? The first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, how the oil was discovered. And if you plot on the chart is available on, I think, US NOAA website. I don't have the link handy. If somebody has, can put on the link, because actually I was not supposed to be here today, but still anyways. So in NOAA website and many other websites, I think this chart is there in the SCR book as well, which says that in 1850s, at that point of time, any of the carbon fuels and other things and industrialization was not there. I mean, machineries and all those things were not really invented. So what was the temperature at that point of time? And how your industrialization has happened, how coal came into it, and then your oil was starting to do, and then 1920s, if you see the combustion vehicle come and the industrialization happened. So how the average temperature has increased over the period, and with the more carbon being emitted, you see the base average temperature. So when we say that the Paris Agreement temperature shouldn't increase more than 1.5 degree, right? More than 1.5 degree compared to what? And what is the baseline? These are the very basic questions. What is the baseline? Baseline, we talk about pre-industrialization levels. So the pre-industrialization levels is 1850s to 1875 to 1900. This is the period people talk about. So if you see to this chart, this is where you will establish that with more carbon being emitted, the average surface temperature is increasing. Now there is one more theory to it. Then in the past million years also, Earth has actually surpassed 1.5 degree, and even 2 degrees it has happened. And which was because of the natural occurrence of the events like El Nino and the other aspects. But then there is an evidence which has also been provided that in this past 150 years, there has been no change of the externalities of the natural occurrences of the event like earthquake, which takes into account lot of carbon being emitted, and the other tilt in the sun radius and the distance and the other aspects. So which clearly indicates that the lack of the externalities, but only because of the availability of the push which humans have done on the coal and the oil and the other aspects is leading to this. And then one more point, if you see from 1970s, the pace of the industrialization has been at its peak, and that is the point when temperatures are actually increasing at a very, very high pace. I'm not sure, I don't have the handbook handy with me, but I'm sure at some pages, this chart is there. And there is a 2 to 3 page dedicated to this section, which clearly highlights that why the humans are responsible for this. And in the past also temperature has breached, but this time it's only humans who are responsible for it. But there is I'm just providing counter arguments as well. In counter arguments, people say that people adopt to it. What if it happens 1.5 degree? Why are you creating so havoc? Let it be, 0.2 degree, 0.3 degree, 2 degrees. What it really matters. Then there is a difference that if at 1.5 degree, 2 degree, 2.5 degree, 3 degree, what kind of changes we are seeing in the human life. There is in WRI website, World Resource Institute, you will find very good link on that at each of the 0.5 degree, the 6 to 7 externalities of the world on relating to the biodiversity, floods, water levels, how things changes and how it is going to impact on the broader life. So if you, before starting, if you just read all these few things, you will understand the broad concept of that. How many of you know TCFD? If you have read the TCFD framework.
Yeah, I have read.
Yeah.
So if you just Yeah. So if you just see the TCFD wala concept, and in that just see the concept of physical risk, that how it is there, and then you start come and read the basics, then you will know that why are you reading this. Otherwise, the motivation is that why I'm supposed to do this now. What मेरा क्या लेना देना इससे, मुझे नंबर बताओ कि इसमें EBITDA पे क्या चेंज आएगा, मेरा लिक्विडिटी कैसे चेंज होगा, how my securitization is going to risk. So the desperation that why I am supposed to do all of that, and if you get your basics clear here at our next chapters, and even in your practice, you will know that why the concept where people say that if this changes, that will change, and you will able to connect everything automatically.
Is back, ma'am? Would you like to continue?
Yeah.
Thank you, Abhishek sir. It was wonderful listening to you.
I have a quick
Yeah.
question, if it's
Yeah,
okay.
Natasha, please. We were just waiting to him to cut, but yeah.
Yeah. So, Abhishek, when you say we need to get our basics through, like I'm from a different field, I have no idea what all of this is. Do I have to do any pre-reading, or does the textbook cover all the basics?
No. So I'm I am from commerce background,
Okay.
and who is even equally bad with maths and statistics. So it's pure bookkeeping background. So
Yeah.
when I gave the exam, and even at that, and before that, when I appeared for my certified ESG analyst course, so both of this course, I mean, at least for this, if we just stick to that, you don't need to do anything beyond this.
Okay, so the textbook covers all the basic concepts that we need to understand.
More than that. More than that. But my one suggestion would be for everybody is, see, we are at a part of life where we have a stable job and we want to excel in our job or want to move into different domain. So here, this certification is not going to help you get job. Okay, point blank, because it's a 6-month certification. The hiring manager will say 6 months mein koi bhi climate expert nahi ban sakta hai. Okay, so don't get window dressed by this. In 6 months, you're not going to get anything. But what are you going to get with this is that how the framework is, and if you spend most of your time in reading and understanding the concepts at the back of your hand, this certification will get you to a interview call, or at least to a table where you discuss. And once you know the things where fundamentally you are very, very strong, and you will be able to make a difference. So focus more that, okay, if you have 30 days for appear for an exam, you can clear this exam by studying out 2 weeks also. So if intention is to clear the exams, it's pretty simple. Even though it's 50% passing mark, it's very, very doable. But if you really want to change your career or excel in your career, spend good quality time. And somebody was suggesting make notes on every page. You will find very, very interesting concepts on every in single page. And when you move to the next chapters, you will be able to understand that why this was there and how you will be able to correlate that. And once you do it, you will know that what is next coming and how things are changing. So the concepts here are very important. So when we talk about that, apna basics ko strong rakho, this is the foundation of your journey to sustainability. Forget SCR.
All right, I have one more. Sorry, these questions may be very basic. So I see that this book is the 2023 book. So if I'm applying for April, does the content get updated frequently? Because other competitive exams, change every 6 months.
See, I mean, here and there it might get updated. I'm not really sure of that, but
No, sorry to interrupt. They update because in the book which I have, it is clearly mentioned that errata is possible. That means you can also suggest if you think that it is not correct, you can write to them back, GARP, and they will check and will update in the new book.
Yeah, see, that is there, but in principle, I mean, only you, because these kind of things, they don't really focus on the latest things. But if a new study had been published, and which is a big one, they do include that. But I don't think anything has been published. So when we appeared for the exam, we had a module of 900 pages, And now today it's roughly at what, 300, Pratiksha? How much it is?
It is 200. So yeah, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
jump in, but material do keep evolving. They have changed their material a lot of times.
There is
So make sure
updated
that you're reading the updated version.
Yeah.
Hi, and probably one quick basic question. How is ESG and this environmental risk, I mean, climate risk related? Is it something like the first E of the ESG?
Right.
All actually.
Could you repeat your
I can-
question,
I
please?
can maybe.
All
Because
of
in the
ESG.
ESG
because in the
is
yeah,
ESG is
ESG we have. Sorry, go ahead.
ESG is a more of a variation of the climate risk. So ESG term was coined more for the financial and
Yes.
financial industries because they are more focused on overall risk ratings, and when they do the risk rating, they cover the three important aspects, which is the environmental, social, and governance. Whereas the sustainability is more about social, economic, and environmental. So just to keep that distinction, when you talk about sustainability, it is less about governance, more about social, economic, and environment. Governance piece becomes part of more about the corporate culture and less about the actual work at the equality level at the ground. So sustainability and ESG have two different distinct. Whenever you talk about ESG, you always talk at the corporate level.
Right. Thank you for that,
Understood.
Prashant. You are right. So the climate change and climate risk is a part of E in the ESG, but climate change isn't just environment, right? It affects everyone. It affects like the thing like rising sea levels, extreme weather. It not only impacts the companies, they impact individuals and government also. So it is not only ESG, the corporate thing. It's a broader term. Yeah.
No, so what I have read in my company is like ESG is related totally 100% related to climate risk, as E is for environment, we are dependent on that. S is social, where human factor is included, and G is governance. Of course, we all need to play according to the rules set up by the
Right.
government or corporate. So ESG, it's totally climate risk
You know,
or
only
sustainability.
E is also not only climate change, like with climate change, you have carbon emissions, but there's also biodiversity, there's also waste management, water management.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's a lot of things in E alone. E. It's not only climate change.
Right. I mean, I was just trying to relate this, and I think often I come across ESG is maybe at a company level, the disclosures
Right.
and everything. But this climate risk is looking at maybe at a macro level, right? How does it impact the overall earth and stuff?
Correct.
Is
You
it
mean the
some?
climate change? Right, you're right. Climate change isn't just affecting the companies. Individually, it is also affecting us. It is affecting everyone around us. So it's not just a company thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stuti, can we continue from the greenhouse effect that we're on?
Yeah, sure.
That will be page number 7, I guess.
Twinkle, I have one announcement. So can we just stick to chapter first and then we will have discussions? Like you can ask in between if you have any major question, but let's go line by line and then we will go in a deeper discussion later.
Yeah. Sure. We were on the greenhouse effect, and so we were discussing about the greenhouse gases. So the most important greenhouse gas is water vapor, which was a shocker for me. I don't know why. The water vapor, it traps most of the heat, and carbon dioxide is the next largest contributor here. And then we have methane also, which is present in a very small amount in the atmosphere. To get into more detail of this, we move to the next topic, that is how humans are changing the climate. So about the carbon dioxide, we all know that after the industrialization have been started, we are emitting more of the carbon dioxide. The usage of fossil fuel has increased carbon dioxide emissions. And there is proof that when the industrialization started, there have been a increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which has led to warming. So the CO2 we emit in the atmosphere, not 100% goes in the atmosphere. More than half of it is absorbed by the land, and another half is absorbed by the ocean. That leads to ocean acidification, which we will talk about later. Also, there are like different type of carbon we have. So it has been studied and researched that the carbon dioxide from fossil fuels, especially, is the one that is affecting the atmosphere most. So clear proof that industrial, yeah, sorry, does someone want to speak?
No.
Yeah. So moving on to other greenhouse gas and aerosol. So in other greenhouse gases, we have methane. Methane is available in the like atmosphere in a very small amount. Like we'll say that how can such a small amount of gas can affect the atmosphere, whole atmosphere. But the point with methane is that it traps as much as heat as 28 kilograms of carbon dioxide. So even a small amount of methane is very stronger than a single carbon dioxide part. So this heat trapping power related to carbon dioxide is called global warming potential. There's a chart on next page, table 1.1, if we can move to the, yeah, great. This mentions all the major greenhouse gases and what are their GWP. So we see how nitrous oxide, halocarbons have such great GWP, such great level. So even a small amount of nitrous oxide or methane is more dangerous than a major carbon dioxide. So like if we remove a little methane from the atmosphere, that will be more beneficial than removing a little of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Yeah, so H2O. So, okay, just a second. So another greenhouse gas here is N2O, that is nitrous oxide, which is also present in a very low concentration in the atmosphere, but again, like methane, very dangerous. It is contributing a lot to the greenhouse effect. Then we have O3, similar, dangerous greenhouse, small amount. Next, we have, so we should stay on the page number 8. Yeah, we're still on 8. Yeah, thanks. Then we have aerosol. Aerosol is a gas, but it has an opposite effect than other greenhouse gases. It cools the climate. Aerosol is the only gas that cools the climate. So humans do emit aerosol in a small amount, which helps in
My point, Twinkle.
yes, Pratiksha.
Where is the aerosol point? Because my book is like different. The page has a different like.
Aerosol point is on page number 8, last paragraph. That starts with another way that humans are changing. Yeah, here.
Okay.
Moving on to the next part, that is summarizing the human impact on our climate. Oh, you see, like all of these gases human are playing a big major role in emission of all these gases, being CO2, N2OH. But there's water, which is the most important greenhouse gas that we read earlier. But humans are not directly involved in emission of water vapor, right?
Water vapor, not water.
Yeah, water vapor. Yeah, sorry. So we know how water vapor are, like how the process goes. There's evaporation, there's rise in temperature, then evaporation happens which leads to water vapor accumulation in the atmosphere. This water vapor, being a greenhouse gas, traps heat in the atmosphere and then makes the earth warm further. So it's like a never-ending loop which happens, and this process is called water vapor feedback, and it is a very dangerous process. Like it has chances of affecting the environment and increasing the climate change at a double or even the triple amount in comparison to carbon dioxide. Yeah. Next, can you move to the next page, Stuti?
Hi, Asta has a suggestion that can we just highlight the point which Twinkle is talking. So, Stuti, can you just ask her when you're pointing out, okay? If you are not ready. Okay.
Okay, that box I will do out. So in the attribution of modern warming, so we're looking at all the attributions which is leading to modern warming. We have tectonic processes. Just a second, sorry. So there's tectonic process which describes how the tectonic plates affect the warming. The output of the sun got more brighter because of which the warming is happening. This orbital variation has the orbit of the Earth has the distance decrease between Earth and Sun, which is affecting the warming. Then we have unforced variability. Greenhouse gas is definitely a factor we know which is affecting the warming. So this is very like you don't need to put much of your attention into these. Just go through it once. The attribution of modern warming. That will be enough. Moving on to 1.7. That is summary statement of attribution of modern warming. So here this line is very important. Stuti, you can mark this from the sixth assessment report. Fifth line of the para, I guess. Yeah. The sixth assessment report, AR6 of IPCC, published in 2021, came to the following conclusion. It is unequivocal that the human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land. Widespread and rapid changes in the atmosphere, ocean, cryosphere, and biosphere have occurred. So yeah, I remember there was a question from this part in our April exam. So yeah.
Twinkle, Rajesh sir आ गए तो do you want him to take a part?
Yeah, I guess after this, future warming, Rajesh sir will be taking up.
Okay, fine.
Just one quick question on this section. I know you mentioned the unequivocal human influence has warmed the temperature ocean. But if you look at the first line of the paragraph, it says that IPCC uses carefully defined terms to express confidence, and they are saying that it is only up to 66% confident that it is because of humans. So, was there some kind of a trick question here when you took it like?
No, it was more about the unequivocal word specifically. You know what I noticed in the GARP SCR exam, the questions are very tough. It makes you think, "Pata nahi kya पूछने वाले हैं," but the option they give you are very straightforward. So yeah, we have to pick this simple word. Yeah. So the likely word, that is for the range of change. The range that has increased, like it's mentioned 0.8 to 1.3 with the base estimate of 1.07. So the likely is for the range, not this factor that humans are affecting the climate.
Got it. My bad.
So the thing is that if I were to just add on to is these terms unequivocal, likelihood, most likely to happen, and there's two more terms which I don't remember. They come from the IPCC, and IPCC specifically defines them from a probabilistic perspective. So unequivocal means it is a 95% level confidence or above, because none of these numbers are actually real numbers. They are all probability distribution functions. When you say unequivocal, it is actually 95% confidence. When you say most likely, it is 70% confidence that way.
Got it. Appreciate it.
This helps. Appreciate.
Correct. Rajesh sir, do you want to take up the next part, future warming?
Pratiksha, do you want to go through with this? Otherwise, what I had done is that I've listed down all the main points in the other presentation, which I sent it also. If you want that, we can use.
Yeah, Rajesh sir, we can actually like have first like overview of the book, and then otherwise you can take it up, but please introduce yourself because we have missed your introduction.
Yeah. So my video is not working. I don't know why.
It's okay, no problem.
Just a minute. Auto framing off.
Do you want us to share your presentation or you are good to go?
No, Begum, I'm good to go. So just to give you an introduction, I'm Rajesh Agarwal. I am based out of Amsterdam in Netherlands. I have a 22 years of experience in financial services technology. I have worked in consulting organizations, product organization, in the bank. I have managed platforms for the bank. And currently, I'm leading as a sustainability services lead for the HCL Tech business. And on each day, I probably converse with at least 4 clients. In the last 5 years, uh, we are conversing with more than 150 plus CIOs or chief sustainability officers across 150 global financial institutions. I had the privilege of being in this role and in this part of the country, in Europe, which is a main hub of what is happening in the sustainability space. And HCL Tech does a very good business with it. And we certainly at HCL Tech have a lot of offerings and unique offerings in terms of the SCR, in terms of the sustainability. And we have active running projects at any point in time within the organization. I cannot talk about those projects, but that's about me. Okay, so we want to get started on the topic. Okay, so what I would do is that we will just glance through with the topics over here. What I've done is that I have taken an effort to take the sections from 1.8 till all the way up to 1.13. All the key bulleted points which are there, I have culled out into a presentation, which we can project later. But typically, the future global warming topic will cover, first of all, in terms of, if you just can scroll across, right? The first topic it will cover will be in terms of uh, what is going to be the future GHG emissions, how does they are calculated. We'll cover that part of it first. Then we'll go to the next part. After we do that, we will go through the PPT. After we do that, what is the impact of this uh, impact on the modern climate change because of these increasing global emissions? That is going to be 1.9. Once we cover 1.9, then we will go into the next section. So I'm just wanting this to be run very quickly because all of this information is there in the PPT as bullet points. So we'll go through the PPT. That would be better because I've put in all that effort to, you don't have to read this. So we will cover this part and then, or maybe just do one thing. Now we have covered 1.8. Let's bring up my PPT, which I've shared already. And then we'll cover 1.8 and then we'll come to 1.9 like that. Can you project the PPT? I've shared already, Pratiksha.
Yeah. I am doing that. Okay, my Zoom is not giving me access to do it. Give me 1 minute. So give me 1 minute. My screen got frozen.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, I have it. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see this.
Okay, we can go ahead.
Yeah, so if you have to look at if we are talking about first of all, we are talking about a future climate. Now, in order, if I have to really understand what the future climate is going to be, we really have to, and Pratiksha has covered in great detail in terms of saying is that the greenhouse gas emissions are making an unequivocal impact to our global average temperature rise. Now, global average temperature rise is a function of accumulated greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which we have spoken about earlier. And in order to predict our global average temperatures in the future, what we need is that we need to make an estimate of what is going to be our global greenhouse gas emissions. Now, typically the greenhouse gas emissions will actually be, in order to make a prediction, it will be dependent on the economic growth as well as the deployment of the new green technologies which are there, or the climate safe technologies which are available in the marketplace, or a lot of research which is happening. Now, this brings us a question which makes it very, very difficult to really predict it. And in order to predict this, what the climate scientists have been doing is that they've been trying to take scenario-based approach. Because when you can't predict a specific number statistically, what you will do is that you build a narrative and you say that what are our possible futures, and then determine basis the possible futures in terms of what would be is there. So they have what has been done by is that there is a IAMC, which is an integrated assessment modeling of consortium. It's an United Nations funded body. What it has done is that it established different narratives, and these different narratives, we'll go get into the details of the narratives a little later, but these different narratives are on the basis of an assumption of certain economic growth as well as development of a climate change technology. So in the graph 3, what you see is that these are different 5 narratives. Graph 4, what you see is that there are basically they have developed 5 SSP standards, which are called as a shared societal socioeconomic pathways, which are important, but out of that 5, only 4 are used. That's why in the 4th graph, what you see is that in of these of 4 different 4 different narratives, what will be the global average global amount of CO2 which will be there in the each year. And in the slide number 5, what you see is that what will be the what will be the amount of, sorry, just a minute, what will be the amount of concentrations of the CO2 which will be there. And the fifth slide number 6 shows the temperature rise, right? Which will be for each of these scenarios. So if you move on to the next slide, and can we put it in a projection mode? Because I think it's not in a projected mode, right? Yeah. Now, what are these 5 scenarios which are there, right? So as I said, that scenario number 4 is rarely used. There's not even the description of that in the book itself, right? Because it was developed for some reason, but it never got used. Now, these 4 scenarios are basically, in the first scenario, what we are considering is that there will be a sustainable growth. What we mean by sustainable growth or a sustainable world is that there will be a tempering of the economic growth. There will be more responsible consumption which will happen by the people, which means the economy will not be growing at the same rate as what it is growing today. Can we stick to the slide? And there will be a gradual shift, right? That's SSP1 number 1. SSP2 is trends of the growth today, and it will be widespread in terms of the renewable energy deployments which will happen. SSP3 takes care of a world inequality where economic growth will be very unequal. A lot of economic concentration will happen in the hands of the people, and SSP5 looks at in terms of emphasis on a very high economic growth. Now, key point to mention here is that no one knows which scenario we will get to. We are most likely hit to the SSP2 scenario, and our actions in the next few decades will really determine where we will land up. The key point to look at in the exam when I appeared was that there are very nuanced questions, or you need to know in some of the cases when, like what Pratiksha mentioned earlier, is that you can know the answer from an elimination method, but some of the answers require you to know that when we will hit to the net zero in two SSP1 and SSP2 scenarios, and SSP1 and SSP2 scenarios, what is the temperature rise which will hit to the pre-industrial era, from pre-industrial era by 2100, right? In the case of that, and even for SSP5, I think I needed to know those specific numbers, right, when I gave the GARP exam. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Yeah. Did you guys understood the scenarios point of it, socio-economic, shared socio-economic?
Yes.
Yep.
I know it will take some time for the new people who are not even aware about this, but yeah, I'll share a few videos of mine if I found out, and then you can learn about this.
Now, we need to get to the point of understanding in terms of impacts of modern climate change, right? So basically, as the global temperature will rise, obviously, uh, if you look at a social economic rise temperatures, you could always say that we are talking about 2-degree rise by 2100, right? And it's like few point degree centigrades each year, right? So it's a very small change, but how does still it impacts on Earth? I think it still has a very significant impact of life on Earth. How does it affect, right? So though the average temperature rise, if you convert it into an annual basis, it may see that it's only a stochastic variation of 110 degrees each year, but it does still affect a lot of things on the climate. So if you look at it, if you come from the on the PPT, if you come from the left to right, you could see an example of that. Uh, During the last ice age, right, what happened is that the global average temperature actually went only by 6 degree lower, and the climate impact change of that when it became 6 degree lower than what it was today is that the entire of the North America and Europe was covered in the ice, and we had a very, very different ecosystem than what we have today. So that has been this reality at the ground when we look at in terms of the 6 degree temperature lower, right? What it means is that basically, though it seems like, okay, it is only 2 degree by 2100, which if we divided by 2 by 80, we are talking about few tens every year, but it has still a significant impact, right? There is going to be enormous change on the environment. And some of the example which you see below the example would be is that a few degree warming implies enormous change. And it can be very, very bad for our human progress. It We have trillions of dollars of our infrastructure which can get affected by climate change. Example would be is the agricultural infrastructure. Now, when you look at agricultural infrastructure, we have put in a lot of irrigation facilities, the distribution facilities, the warehouses in places and near to the places where farming can happen. Now, with the climate change, the areas today which are not good for farming from a climate point of view, with a rise in temperature, they may become drought or arid lands, right? And the agriculture may shift to areas which are colder today, and this means there is going to be a relocation of the agricultural shift which will be required, or if there is a sea level rise, uh, which is another impact. What we'll have to do is that we'll have to, in order to adapt to it, we'll have to rebuild, or enhance our cities' dike capabilities, or the ability to build in the flood defenses for the sea level rise, which actually, in order to adapt that, it will mean a significant uh, uh, expenses for us. So this is the kind of impact it can create from a climate change perspective. But uh, you also need to understand is that you can't only look at climate change from a risk perspective. So underneath it is that I've also given an example that let's take one event which is there in terms of what happens if there is a climate change, and if we are talking about a warmer cold seasons, right, because of a climate change. There are some positives, but there are also negatives, right? So if you look at on a positive side of the negative, on a positive side is that if there is going to be warmer cold climate, In colder regions, it may mean a less cold mortality. It may also mean less crop damages due to freezing events of the snow, and a warmer temperature also means a enhanced plant growth. But it also has a lot of negatives as well, which is in terms of saying is that the insect mortality can increase when there are in a warmer cold seasons. It can lead to more pest attacks. So the plants may grow faster, but there can it also can lead to more pest attacks. Less snow means there will be also less amount of melt water, and this will can affect complete freshwater availability and can cause a stress on the fresh water, which is on the negative side. So if you want to understand is that every climate change event can also be seen as as a risk and opportunity, right? As the impact of the climate change happens, it also needs to be seen as a risk and opportunity. Though SCR talks about it as a climate risk, but TCFD framework, which you will come across later point in time, needs sees it as a risk and opportunity side of it as well, right? In terms of the opportunities can be in multiple ways. We'll come to that in a later bit, right? So any questions on this one? I think we can move to the next slide. Probably next is 1.10. No, it's continued on this. So we will go to the different effects one by one in terms of temperature, precipitation, and all. But any questions on this? Because these are the major impacts of the modern climate change. Now, when the global warming will rise, how it will impact the temperature, right? Obviously, we will have a warmer Earth. So whenever we talk about it, one thing you need to keep in general in mind is that none of these changes will be uniform. Warm earth will not cause an uniform throughout the time space distance in terms of being a higher degree temperature for across the board. No, it is remember that we are always talking about a global average temperature. So which means the distribution is going to be very different when we measure the global average temperature, right? Rise in the global average temperature, it will not be uniform. So basically continents will become more warmer than the oceans. Obviously, the oceans absorb uh, uh, more. Oceans absorb the heat, right? So that's why the continents will become more warmer than this. Northern hemisphere has more number of has a higher land, which means it will become which will it will end up being more warmer. A lot of people stay in the northern hemisphere, so they will a lot more people will experience warmer climates in the northern region. So the changes will not be uniform of the temperature. It will also create various different ill effects on the society. Like if you look at in the 2023 itself, recently South France had a extreme heat waves which were fatal to certain parts of it. 2003 heat wave in Europe was very fatal. Uh, it's you and I, we all know that if it is a scorching heat outside when the temperature is extreme, we don't like to work. So there will be a global reduction in the productivity, right? And if you look at ILO estimates that 1.3% of the global estimate of what people effort is involved by 2050 is at risk, and that is not a significant number. If you convert it into the total number of jobs, it becomes more than 200,000 plus jobs, right? So the reduced productivity can have that much impact with the few degree rise, right? Obviously agricultural yield can change because of the and when they combine with the precipitation change effects, it can have a lot of differences in the agricultural yield. So these are only some of the impacts, but the key message is that temperature will get warmer, northern hemisphere will get more hotter, then it will not be uniform and it will have significant ill effects on the society. Coming on to the precipitation part of it, impact of a modern climate change. Obviously, when the earth will heat, it leads to an increased rate of evaporation, which leads to an increased precipitation. And obviously, precipitation means there will be more rains, which will happen. So for every IPCC estimates that for every 1 degree change in precipitation, for every 1 degree change, there will be a 3 degree change in the increase in the precipitation. Now, again, the precipitation will not be uniform. So what will happen is that you will get wetter areas will get more wetter, drier areas will get more drier because the distributions are going to change. the concentration will also happen, will change. The pattern of the rain, it will start becoming more and more downpours, which means basically there will be more amount of rainfall which will come in one single fall of a rain. The duration for which the rain lasts will also get reduced. The frequency between the rain events will also change. So basically there will be an increased frequency. It will be at a more distance, and these have significant impacts. The seasonality will also change because there will be less wintertime precipitation and more summertime precipitation because of the global warming. And this has a huge, enormous impact in terms of our flood occurrences, enormous impact in terms of evaporation from the soil, which can cause to droughts. And basically, in a very one star short sentence, if you have to make it at, when it will start raining, it can make flooding and waterlogging, and when it is dry, it can make droughts, right? So I think we are witnessing that phenomena across the globe in some ways or the others. uh, Obviously this is the impact on the floods and droughts, and the other impacts of it is going to be obviously the if there is a less water and there's a less runoff of the water, it impacts the hydroelectricity and tourism. It impacts the flood will require an adaptation from us to build the flood defenses, which will cost millions and trillions of dollars, right? Water is a lifeblood, right? And it can lead to a lot of political destabilization. It can lead to in terms of freshwater availability, because if you try to understand when a winter precipitation happens, right, the water will quickly melt. It will run off faster, and when it runs on faster, what happens is that the entire water has moved into the ocean, which is saline much more faster, and then you don't have the summer season when the fresh of water is available. That is how the freshwater availability gets impacted. So the uh, consequences of just a temperature change are very significant in different directions. I hope it is coming to you in terms of understanding this way. Or
Yeah, so can you just tell us like what kind of a questions were there about this particular from this particular chapter?
okay, so the questions typically are, all the questions are basically case-based questions, right? So none of the question is a direct question in the SCR exam, right? All questions are 80 questions are case-based questions. So what you need to understand is that, and this is exactly what I did, right? I wrote down all of the chapters which I read through with it. I read left down with the bullet points. So the questions will be like in terms of saying is that somebody is being doing a project related to establishing an agricultural massive plant somewhere, right? And then they will talk about suddenly that, okay, this much average temperature rise is going to happen. uh, what do you think, as a risk manager in that firm, you should be looking at, right? And then that kind of question. So it's a more application oriented question, and that's the reason the best way to answer the question is that don't try your and break your question in terms of finding the answer. Uh, if you know your basic concepts, you start reading the options to the answers, and that's what I did, right? Because the good part is that it's a very exam which has a multiple choice question. You start reading the multiple choice question, and if your understanding of the effects in this thing is clear, you can easily zero down onto the one answer in most cases, but in some cases it will lead to two, and then you can need to apply a little bit of yourself, right? So my suggestion would be is that for all questions, when you answer, first read the responses which are there as a multiple choice, because it's all case based answers, and the responses will tell you what could be the first two ones which are there, because you cannot deduce it from the front of it, right?
Okay, sir. Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Sir, can you throw light on the form of precipitation changes? Suppose in less winter time precipitation will fall as snow, and more will fall as rain. Can you just give it the through light how it is propagating in the runoff the water? Because some of
Okay.
the I saw the practice set question related to this one.
Okay, so runoff means what? Basically, see, the thing is that when there is a snow, and if a snow falls, it is very high in density, right? And when the snow falls, it will remain on the surface for quite some time, right? Then it will become hardened. Now, it will take a good amount of sun for the water to start melting at that time. And once it is becomes an ice takes a longer time to melt, which means basically the runoff will happen for a longer duration till all the way till, let's say, supposing the snow falls in the month of December, the water will melt and will start flowing downwards uh, in the towards the month of March, April, May, right? So in a summer season, you will have a freshwater availability, right? But if there is a lesser snow, what will happen is that, or the density of the snow is lower, or what happens is that there is a snow falling and then there's a suddenly waterfall, less dense snow falling. The It will not formulate an ice. It will not become 1 feet kind of deep on the surface of it, which means there will be immediate runoff, at which means basically the summer water supply will get impacted, right?
Yeah, it means it only it is happen when the less participations happen in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So runoff is an impact of less precipitation in winters, right?
Okay.
The warmer earth will cause to increased rate of evaporation, which will lead to increased precipitation, right? And that is a higher rainfall, right? That's what we are trying to say. In the winter season, it will be runoff, right?
Yeah, yeah. Got it. Got
Runoff
it.
effect, right?
Got it. Thanks.
Shall we move to the next slide?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So sea level rise, again, there are two reasons why it can cause, due to the ice melting, obviously, and uh, all that ice which is going to melt from the land is going to land up into the ocean. That's the main reason, actually. And then there is the whole thing about IPCC predicts about 44 to 75% sea level rise by 2100. It can have a serious impacts, right? Again, if you look at it in Florida with a sea level rise, as an example, uh, with a 2 meter, two of the nuclear plants which are there, reactors which are there in Florida will get submerged. 9% of the Florida Keys and Dudley counties will get submerged, leading to an impact on 68 hospitals being submerged, right? So due to a sea level rise, because Florida is very near to the sea. But what you need to understand is that the impact of a sea level rise is significant, because if you look at all your large cities, start imagining all our large cities, right? Mumbai, uh, New York, not to that extent in New York, but Tokyo. Lot of our large cities are near the seas, right? A sea level rise will impact them very significantly, and a lot of our city infrastructure is based on that, right? The other impact to remember is that ice melts slowly. We just spoke about it some time back, right? So if you try an experiment in your home also, you put an ice, it will melt very slowly. But you drop for some water on it, it will break up very fast, right? That's a kind of a ice melt slowly. But then once it starts melting, it can be a very fast reaction you can get, right? So the our predictions are a bit just a fraction for this century. It will take some time for us to recognize the impact of the ice melts which are going to happen, but that can also happen quickly due to the tipping points, which we'll talk about the tipping points a bit later in terms of what tipping points are. Then we move on to the next bigger impact is the ocean acidification. uh, what happens is that when the sun comes in, 25% of the heat gets absorbed by the ocean. Now, when the carbon dioxide gets dissolved in the ocean, it creates a carbonic acid. This is called, which increases, and because the acid increases, it leads to more acidity of the water of the ocean, which increases the pH level of the water, which decreases the pH level of the water. Sorry, as the pH level of the water decreases, it makes it difficult to maintain for the species which are there in the water to extract the carbonate from the water and maintain their shells. And they can be eventually very disastrous for the species. And this can mean, in terms of saying, is that we can completely lose the species itself. And it's also one of the very important things to understand is that the implications of ocean acidification is a very active topic of research. The reality today is that we understand far less about our oceans than what we understand about our moons and the satellites as well, right? So it's a very, very important topic, but that's where I will stop over there on the fact of ocean acidification. There is it's a very, very active topic of research right now. There are a lot of people who are doing PhD. There is a lot of funding available on this subject globally, across different universities for the research on ocean acidification. So then there are extreme events, right? So there is uh, see, one thing we need to understand is that the impact of the climate change is going to be very extreme, right? And the extreme events will make the frequency and intensity increase of the extreme events. Extreme events are basically your flood, sea level rise events, storms, and others which happen erratically, earthquakes and all. But obviously, earthquakes do not have an impact on our climate change. There's no proved science on that. Or the tornadoes. Tornadoes also do not have a proved science in terms of impact from the climate change. So extreme events are very we really these are randomly happening. But what the climate change does is that it causes the magnification of that event. What we mean by magnification of that event is that when a heat wave happens, a climate change will make the heat wave more warmer, more extreme, right? Warmer climates will make that. When a coastal storm happens, because of the sea level rise, it can become even more extreme. So the climate change may not necessarily cause extreme events, but what it does is that it magnifies or amplifies the effect uh, of a extreme event. And there is an emerging new science to quantify the effect of this magnification. And how this magnification is done is that basically what you look at is that you look at a pre-industrial era statistical variation in terms of what is the likelihood of a extreme event happening versus what is a likelihood of a event happening after the pre-industrial era. This tells me in terms of the reason is a climate change causing uh, extreme events, but there's not enough evidence of it in terms of saying is that, and then you apply the understanding of physics to it, and then you also look at in terms of saying is that, uh, but use these two periods of the extreme events and then do a computer simulation by putting in the data around looking at a with or without GHG impact on the earth. uh, Using that, you are actually able to estimate the magnification of the extreme events. And this is another science which is becoming very, very extreme, which is getting a lot of attention these days, called as the extreme event attribution science. um, the Using these computer simulation models, AMS, which is the American Society for Meteorological Society, has estimated that every extreme event in the last few years has been affected by climate change, which it has magnified. For example, in the case of Hurricane Harvey, they say that the total rainfall has increased by 15% because of the climate change. So what extreme events are doing is that they're making the extreme events more extreme. Now that's a very oxymoronic statement, but that is what is happening because it is magnifying the extreme events amplitudes, right?
I hope you guys have SCR book open in front of you because he's trying to explain it in the PPT format. Thank you, sir, for creating all this.
Can we say that extreme event attribution science is able to quantify the climate change or able to magnify the climate change, also able to understand whether it is happening, geographical location and all? Because
See the
questions
see the
related.
thing is that
Yeah.
okay, see the thing is that a challenge with an extreme event is, first of all, it is stochastic, right? And it is random. Now, and when you talk about a climate change, translating an extreme event to a physical location at a lower resolutions than 50 by 50 kilometer becomes very, very, very difficult, right? I hope you understand the resolutions aspect, right? So
Yeah.
when you study these computer simulation models, typically what you do is that you put the extreme events attribution at a 50 by 50 kilometer resolutions, right? What I mean by is that you look at a 50 by 50 kilometer data, right? In terms of saying that what the simulations are there, right? But if you have to go granular than that, it becomes very difficult. But having said that, there are firms like I know of a firm called as Vivid Economics, which is a McKinsey firm, which is trying to get to the resolutions at a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer or maybe 25 meter by 25 meter, right? As well to understand it. But it's an active research subject on the extreme event attribution science, right?
We need to downscale the data accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to downscale the data, but when you start doing a downscaling of the data availability itself is a challenge. You can't only statistically downscale the data, right? Because it's very difficult to get that, right? Let's say, supposing if you think about at least a earthquake, you can know what exactly the epicenter of the earthquake was because it is an earthquake at that point, right? But when you talk about a flood, now the flood can affect a very large area. So the data today which is available is more at a very larger impact, right, area.
Yeah. Says in literature, it's also mentioned that the climate what is not taking the consideration of the climate adaptive capacity of the particular location. Suppose in flood is happening in the other location, they have the adaptive capacity is better than the previous one. So effect will be the different.
Yeah. So your vulnerabilities are different for different assets, right? So say supposing there are two houses sitting next to each other, and there's a water logging which happens, right? And due to the flood, one of the house may have a pump established, the other may not have a pump established, right? To take care of it. The vulnerability, adaptive capability is different, and the vulnerabilities are also different because one of the person might have done the construction in such a way that he might have done a uh, l- uh, level rise on the low-lying surface and then did the construction. Other may not have taken into account in that. So the vulnerabilities are different, the adaptive capacities are different, the exposures are different, right?
Sir, why was you asking this? Because one of the question I heard that what is the drawback of this attribution science, where this is lacking. So I think and they're not considering.
Availability of the data.
Yeah.
And see, the thing is that extreme attribution science can only tell me in terms of magnitude and when it can happen, but it cannot give me the data of two specific things, which is in terms of saying is that what is the exposure at a particular location and what is the vulnerabilities which is there, right? Or what is the resiliency of that location. To your point in terms of saying is that I can, if Reliance Industries has say 500 different locations, like if Reliance Industries has multiple plants, right? Now, companies or beyond Reliance, companies do not know where exactly the plants of Reliance are located, exact area and others. It's going to be difficult from that data for others to know in a financial services segment, right? That's point number one. Second number is that knowing exactly how much exposure, which means basically investments are sitting in these different areas, and you have loaned it to a overall corporate, right? So how do you distribute at each of these plants is another problem. The third problem is how do you attribute what kind of defenses and each of these plants have been done, which is a very, very operational data which only Reliance knows, right? So obviously your vulnerability, your risk resiliency, your plant location data, your exposure to a specific location is all unknowns, right? For any other external party, right?
Yes, got it. Thanks.
Okay, shall we move on to the albedo effect?
Yes.
And by the way, Pratikshan, thanks for pointing it out. This bullet points are exactly written in a way the book is running. Okay.
That's I am looking at it. I have a physical book copy.
Yeah. So if you go through with the chapter, it will exactly be in the same manner, right? So what is albedo effect, right? So basically, what clothes do we wear in summer? We wear white clothes. Why? Because white has a ability to reflect more, right? Because light is at the end of a day electromagnetic radiation. At white frequency of white color, it radiates all the light right back. So now the thing is that what is albedo effect, right? So ice is there is a white ocean and there is a dark ocean, right? A white ocean is nothing but a snow-covered ocean, right? Which is the Antarctic circles or the Arctic circles or the green sheets in the Greenland and all, right? Now they reflect more sunlight back to the atmosphere, right? Which comes from the sun. This reflection ability is called as an albedo effect, right? Now, because the mm, oceans are melting, what is going to happen is that the melting of the ice sheet means basically the area under cover of the oceans as they melt will get reduced, which means basically the part of the ocean which was earlier covered with an ice sheet will now become a darker ocean, which means Earth will start absorbing more energy, which is coming from the sun, right? And it will leading and this more absorption of the heat immediately in the periphery of the ice sheet, which is happening in the darker ocean next to it, will mean is that more oceans will start melting, right? This is and this can lead to much more faster effect, which is for 3 to 4 times in fact of compared to the uh, other aspect in a normal area. This is exactly called as a polar amplification. Now, polar amplification, this was something which was a very, very big surprise for me as well, right? Polar, when I read through with it, and I still find it a bit difficult in terms of how polar amplification works, right? But it causes 3 to 4 times temperature, average temperature rise in the Arctic Circle. And the shallow water, so the thing is that if the water is more deeper, right? The heat travels less at a less frequent doesn't get exchanged or transferred that quickly, whereas if the water is shallow it gets transferred very quickly, right? So what will happen is that a melting of uh, Greenland ice sheets leads to a sea level rise at one end, but then when the Greenland ice sheets melt, they release permafrost. Permafrost is nothing but the water vapors which were there, right? So what Twinkle was talking about earlier in terms of the water vapors which are there. These are water vapors which has been trapped into the ice millions of years ago, right? They also get now released, which in turn releases the trapped GHG which was there inside the ice inside the as water vapors inside the ice sheet, and this can lead to a long, very very large scale pattern changes across the globe. So the water feedback or polar amplification, both of these are actually a positive feedbacks, which means basically a cycle starts, it leads to something else, and then again the same thing happens back, right, in a positive feedback, which keeps it in a very circular, accelerated manner, creating a tipping points, right? And feedbacks play a very, very important role in a tipping point. So feedback is like you have a cause which leads to an effect, then that effect leads to back to the cause, right? So basically, you've got into a cycle, circular loop now, right? Now, if the circular loop is additive, then it becomes a positive feedback. Positive doesn't don't take the meaning positive feedback here in the sense of it is good. Positive means it's only going to accelerate. So the cause leads to effect, effect leads to a cause, right? Whereas in a negative feedback, what will happen is cause leads to effect, but the effect then leads to something which is going to be anti-causal, right? Which is going to stop the cause for it, right? And that will mean it will at least start decelerating the process, right? So the feedback will lead to a deceleration of the process. So that's how the feedback play a role in the tipping points, right? And polar amplification is one of the very, very important feedbacks, and it's one of the other 9 planetary boundaries, right?
All these are happening without the increase of GSZ.
Yes.
So I have a question that so if you're talking about the Iceland, Greenland, where then that time the entire most of the areas covered by the ice, so it was reflective to sun and it's a low albedo. Okay, but once the GSZ has started increasing in the 19th century, so Iceland is started melting. So when the albedo effect is minimum in the Iceland time or in the 19th century?
See, albedo is so I think you got it wrong. Albedo is the ability of a white surface to reflect back.
Okay.
So ocean's reflective capacity is called as albedo. If it is a white ocean, it has a higher albedo. Okay, so higher albedo is just a measure of reflective capacity from a white surface, right?
Okay.
Of light.
How the Earth's overall albedo effect is impacting? It's decreasing.
Okay, so the thing is that if you look at it simple, right? Take it very simplistic. If
Yeah.
uh, if there is an Earth and the Earth has a 6,400 kilometers of the radius, right? Or diameter. I think it's radius or diameter, right? 6,400 kilometer diameter, which means basically there's a surface as a cube, right? If you just take it as a ball cube, right? There is as a sphere, there is a surface, right? Now on this surface, the two poles which are there, they were covered significantly with ice, right? Are significantly covered with ice. Now, when a sun rays comes and penetrates from the atmosphere, it is hitting to a significant portion of the surface which was covered with an ice. It is hitting to them. But because that's a white surface, which is a basically non-melted snow which was there, it is reflecting back, which is causing an albedo, right? Now, as the oceans start melting because of the increasing temperature, the surface area which is covered by that white snow is going to get reduced, right? Which means as the surface area gets reduced, less and less heat will be reflected back, right? Because it is a factor of your white surface is getting reduced on the earth, right?
Got it. And also decrease the temperature on that area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How aerosol and yeah. So okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. We'll discuss.
Yeah. Okay, now we will come to so till now we have spoken about the impacts on the uh, uh, various different effects we have spoken about. Now, what is the natural systems impacts on the natural systems itself, right? Uh, it's is the one of the thing which you need to understand is that the natural systems we do not manage, so we don't understand a shitload of it, right? So basically, it's going to be very difficult to manage them also, right? As the impacts happen on the natural systems, natural systems provide us a lot of benefits, right? In fact, there is a complete science if you want to understand in terms of how do you do a natural capital accounting, which is separate from this subject, but it is from the United Nations. There's a new accounting standard which comes, which is called as a UNSEEA standard, CA standard, which basically helps in terms of understanding the accounting from the ecosystem services which the nature provides to the society, right, and to the people on the earth. So they do provide a lot of benefits. The benefits could be measured in terms of the ecosystem services. The ecosystem service could be in terms of basically uh, when when a water comes to pumping of the water could be one of the benefits, right? If you look at a water vapor gets formulated, it goes to the Himalayas and then comes back. So it's an ecosystem service which is getting melting and coming back, right? So it provides enormous benefits to us. Um, Climate change is not directly related to uh, a climate change is not linear, right? In the sense of saying is that GHG emissions do not cause a linear change in the global average temperatures. The global average temperatures are not is not impacting uniformly. They are not increasing linearly, but global average temperatures mean is that because of the other effects we have also spoken about in terms of they have an impact in a different way, right? It is not uniform, and this can rapidly change. Uh, and when these rapid changes can happen, because we spoke about these positive feedbacks and negative feedbacks, this can lead to the tipping points. So the examples of the tipping points is right. Basically, if you understand, is that when the last ice age happened, several within several decades, the temperature dropped by 6%, right? And that led to a massive disruption in a very short time period, right? Short interval, leading to the last ice age, right? So that is how it happens, right? Basically. So other examples of the tipping points could be shutdown of Gulf Stream, disintegration of the Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets, thawing of permafrost or methane hydrate, and shifting of the monsoon effects in believe on our life, right, of people. It's very difficult to assess the occurrence of tipping points, but climate scientists claim that the probability is low, but it is not zero, right? And just from an exam perspective, there will be certainly one of the questions on the amplification part, right? When I say not necessarily polar amplification, there I have seen is that most of the times there will always be one question in terms of either climate tipping, application of climate tipping concept, or a polar or a positive feedback loops, right? Basically. So this water vapor feedback effect, the polar amplification effect, please ensure that you read it a couple of times, right? And the aerosol impact, right? You read it for a couple of times, right? Before you fully understand that.
It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we can take like 10 minutes break because we are still on chapter 1. We might take like 12:30 or plus time. So can we take 10 minutes break?
Sure.
Are you guys okay with this? We can come back after 10 minutes. I'll give you alert at 10:10.
Sure, sure.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Um,
I'll quickly run through with it in that case, okay?
yeah, no problem. So I'm sharing my screen once again. Let me know if you can see it. So we
Okay.
have done the adoption. Okay.
Yeah, we can move to the adaptation. I think we were in the 1.10. I think so. Basically, there are three sections on the policy responses. There are three types of policy responses. What we mean by policy response is that when a climate change happens now, how am I going to respond to it? Adapt is basically in terms of responding to the negative impacts of the climate change. We all know that there are like many ways in which we can respond, right? But it's predominantly a response to physical risk. It's not a response to a what I would say a transition risk, right? Basically, it's mainly a response to physical risk. Uh, we did speak about in terms of how these responses, like we speak about the built infrastructure, then the natural responses could be in terms of plantation of mangrove forest because it avoid the coastal water to flow back. In fact, there are a lot of companies which are actually doing mangrove forest plantations. There's a business coming around that as well, right? Then there is communication process regulation. So basically, on this side, the governments can help in, or we can put up a better communication. If you look at it in India itself now, what has happened is that because of the better communication and process, the our adaptive capacity to cyclones has improved, right? Now that cyclone may not be directly related to a climate change as event, but if you look at in Orissa, in Andhra Pradesh, because of our communication, early warning systems and communication mechanisms and ability to send messages in the mass way through WhatsApp and all, to a lot of people have improved our ability to deal with the cyclones. Like similar kind of examples, it can be taken up in terms of communication and regulation. Typically, the way the people adapt are in two different ways, right? Individuals adapt it, or and the individuals will always do the adaptation because they have a conflict of interest. But it is a very different. It has very significant disadvantages. One is that individuals cannot do something which requires a societal coordination. So if a large area is going to be flooded, or sea level rise, or it is going to see a water logging, you cannot adapt it individually because the entire city gets affected. So it requires a large societal coordination. Or even if you talk about water harvesting in your society, it requires a societal coordination, which is one of the biggest challenges with an individual adaptation. But if it is like it's hot, I can put an AC, which is easier one, right? But it takes enormous resources if I can put an AC in my house, right? So societal coordination for a lot of climate issues is big problem, and the government can play a very significant role by providing either direct regulation, aid, regulations, incentives, tax incentives, regulations, policy reforms, mandating certain things, information systems like what they've done in the case of cyclones and all, right? So that is how the government can play a role. But there's an important concept called as a maladaptation. Whenever a adaptation of one person leads to a increased vulnerability or exposure to the other person, when I say person to something else, right, other thing, that is called as a maladaptation, right, basically. And we should certainly avoid maladaptation, right, because and typically the maladaptation is like, uh, if you look at it, maladaptation has a lot of negative impacts, right? It affects the most vulnerable, because the people who have people who have more financial resources, they will take an adaptation mechanisms in a way which will affect the poorer nations, right? So the most vulnerable get more vulnerable. It increases the vulnerability of the sections which cannot put in, and it may lead to an overall increase in the gas house emissions which we started from, right? So basically, if you look at it, there's a lot of debate raging in between US, Europe. Like even if you look at a CBAM right now, which has come in, right? The carbon budget border accounting mechanism,
Border mechanism.
cross-border mechanism which has come, CBAM, which is there, right, between the Europe and India. Now, Europe is looking at it as an adaptation technique, but it is a maladaptation from the exporting nations to them, right? It is not putting them, and specifically countries like India, it is not putting them in a disadvantageous position, right? So it's an again, to in my mind, an example of maladaptation, right?
Yeah.
And there's a raging debate on that. If you want to go, you can see that the raging debate on the CBAM all across the web. There is a lot of things around maladaptation in that kind of sense, right? Let's move on to the next policy response. The next policy response is mitigation. And by the way, this is a policy response which is getting a lot of action today. It is getting a lot of funding today. So mitigation is actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And you can see the reasons why it is getting maximum impact today. So if you talk about a green bond, or you talk about any of those things, right? Significant portion of the green bond funding globally is actually going into the wind power plants and solar power plants, which means basically this mitigation action is the biggest funding action where the cash flows are moving right now. The global investments are moving right now. So though the policy response is called as mitigation, but actually it boils down to the green funding, right? So basically, it's very simple one, right? It's no big science, right? We have to move towards a clean energy. Replace fossil with renewable is one of the techniques, right? The other is uh, how basically, but what is happening is that the adaptation of the wind and solar is increasing because the learning curves have improved. But we all know that the primary issue with wind and solar is the intermittency problem, right? Intermittency means is that the power is not available exactly at the same time when you want to consume it. And if a wind and solar power plants are connected to the grid, it becomes a problem. Just to give one statistics about a wind power, 35% of the wind power which is generated never gets used because of its intermittency, right? It is generated at a time when it is not needed, right? And if you look at the example for that is that what India is trying to do is that India has proposed in the in the Glasgow COP, Glasgow or COP prior to that, to put up a grid between India and Europe and connect the two grids, so that what happens is that the solar power, when India generates at a very peak level, when we don't use the entire solar, it can be transported to Europe when it is in the early in the morning. And likewise, the reverse can happen from a wind perspective. So India had proposed that. I don't remember the name of the initiative, but it's a interconnecting between the grid between India and Europe, right? How the intermittency problems can be solved? Obviously, hydroelectric is one of the ways in the intermittency can be solved, because in order to solve intermittency, you need a dispatchable power. Dispatchable power means is that it's always on power, which is always available, and it can be modulated, right? Quickly modulated to ensure that it is not going to overload the grid. So what are the other power segments sources which we can help to balance the intermittency issue between the solar and wind? One is hydroelectric, second is obviously nuclear, third is geothermal, fourth is biomass, fifth is CCUS. I don't know whether you know CCUS, but if you don't know CCUS, basically CCUS is carbon capture, utilization, and storage. What you do is that you either you take a fossil fuel uh, and burn it, and then capture the carbon in such a way that none of the carbon is released to the atmosphere, which is basically you are utilizing the carbon, and then you store it. And the way you store it is that you go and abandoned oil shale seals or the coal mines, you just dump it into them. This thing, it's a feasible science, but yes, you put the carbon back in them and expect that those fields at some point in time will again become for create fossil fuel, right? So that's what a CCUS is, right? So apart from that CCUS, you can also look at in terms of bioenergy and batteries, right? Biomass energies, right? So these are all intermittents, but each one of them has their own challenges. None of them is perfectly this thing. So I've listed down some of the challenges. Like nuclear, we all know, expensive to build, risky from a wastage point of view, can lead to nuclear proliferation. That's why we exactly have an NSG. Geothermal, um, it is possible, but it can only happen near volcanoes, cannot be scaled at a very high level. Biomass, it will lead to a lot of land use change, which is another impact which will happen, and hence cannot scale at a global level. Again, CCUS, very expensive economically. And batteries, having large scale batteries is one other solution, but they are the battery minerals, lithium and all, come from volatile regions. We all know that there are living wage issues in those regions. Then the China has taken a lead in terms of taking that across, which creates a political instability issues. All of that are there with this, right? So basically the intermittency challenges still continue to remain wind and solar sector. There are various different approaches, but none of them is foolproof yet from an intermittency challenge. But mitigation is the one which is getting the highest funding today, right? Let's move on to the next one. So this is geoengineering. Now, geoengineering is a third policy response. If you remember, if you've been following the news, sometime back, Biden administration has actually spoken something on the geoengineering, which is exactly the first point, which is there a solar radiation management. They spoke about in terms of we can get to we can reflect back the solar waves which are coming to the earth even before they hit our atmosphere at the stratosphere level by injecting the sulfur into it. Now, I don't know why people think this is, at least I'm on the other side of it, but the book says that there is a robust physics of it. The book also talks about it. It says that exactly how this is how exactly the volcanoes cool the earth. There's a good science behind it. There's everyone seems to be, there's a high confidence in its feasibility, but I am on the side of it personally that it can have a serious side effects. if we do not understand the implications of putting something as dangerous as a sulfur in a stratosphere, right? We don't know what its impact could be in terms of precipitation change, governance, political destabilizations. Can it lead to a circular loops where cause and effect can be confusing? So I'm on the other side of it, right? If it is not proven, why do we want to take that approach, right? Then the other techniques of geoengineering are direct air capture, remove CO2 from the air chemically. JP Morgan recently invested a lot of money around the DAC, but the kind of cost which you see for the DAC is just impossible with the 40 billion tons which we are talking about to be removed, right? BEX is another one. BEX is nothing but similar to the CCUS technology, but instead of burning the carbon fuel, fossil fuel, what do you do is that you burn a biomass. Now, how does it become a geoengineering or carbon negative? Is that when the plant grows for the 10-20 years, when it grows, it absorbs carbon dioxide from the earth. Then you are actually, when you burn the biomass, the carbon dioxide which is generated, you are completely capturing it, and then you are pushing it into the landfill, into the geological surface, right? Which means that is what is happening, right? And it seems to be apparently that. So there is a possibility of geoengineering which can be done, but at a scale required, not known, risks not known, and we are talking about a release of 40 billion annually, right? So that's where we stand in terms of the geoengineering. Um, I think it's one of the policy response toolkits, but in my personal view, not one of the best ones, right? The adaptation and mitigation is a far better tool in our hands, right? Now, coming to in terms of the next question I'll come to is that how do you define the mitigation targets, right? So we spoke about mitigation. How do you define the mitigation targets? How much greenhouse gas should I remove from the earth? So first is that I think ideally we should remove everything, but from the policy and the global economic perspective, we are talking about that the targets have been defined. It's not a scientific target. It doesn't mean anything from a target perspective. The targets have been defined at a global level through a Paris Agreement, which happened in 2025, which a lot of people, we talk about Paris Agreement or climate, where at that point in time, 130 nations came together. Right now, I think 180 plus nations have signed up for the Paris Agreement, where they agreed to reduce the industry, to limit the global warming to less than 2 degrees before 2050, while pursuing the efforts to limit it beyond 20 to 1.5 degree centigrade. There's a typo there. It should have been 1.5 degrees right there. But you need to remember is that the Paris Agreement is a national, and with each country making their own nationally determined contributions, right? Paris Agreement is non-binding as well, right? Now, the challenge, the thing is that Paris Agreement has come in the light of a Kyoto Protocol, which was there earlier. Kyoto Protocol was binding on it, yet nothing happened out of it. Kyoto Protocol is a big failure in its own right. So the mitigation targets have been defined in terms of the political consensus which has been reached out. It is not defined on the basis of a science, and it is based on based on the target. Countries have taken their own nationally determined contributions, and this works on a common but differentiated responsibility principle, right? So the nations which are growing nations have taken a lesser target. So if you look at it in terms of saying is that India says that I will become net zero by 2070, but have no interim target. EU has an interim target of a near-term target of 55% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. US has an interim target of 2020, 50% by 2030. Again, typo, 2030 and 2050. It should be right. Basically, 2030 and 2050, not 2020. So these are the nationally determined contributions which are there. But if you look at in terms of do a reverse calculation which has been done, right? Not all the contributions which are done, they are not sufficient enough, right? With the contributions which has been made by the people today, and if you cumulate them under the Paris Agreement, we are well on the track to achieve the SP 1.5 to 3 degree temperature rise by 2300, right? Now, what do we need to, so given where we are today, the Paris Agreement is not going to meet, right? And if you have to meet to the Paris Agreement of 2 degree, what do we really need to do, right? So first of all, how do we still meet about a 2 degree for thing, right? So basically think about a carbon budget. First of all, a global temperature rise, remember that it is based on the cumulative GHG emissions. So it doesn't mean that I've emitted this year, it is gone. No, it's not a financial cycle. It's like whatever you have been emitting is getting into the atmosphere, right? It stays in the atmosphere for 1,000+ years, right? Climate scientists have estimated zero point 0.3 to 0.6 degree per ton of the um, emissions, the temperature rises. I think these numbers you need to remember, because in some of the calculations you probably might want to use them, right? Because some questions come on the calculations. That's why I culled out the specific numbers and put it over here. So a rough ballpark estimate is that 0.3 to 0.6 degree temperature rise happens for a per trillion ton of CO2. Since pre-industrial era, by 2017, we have already emitted 2.2 trillion. What the scientists say is that basically if I have to limit it myself to 2 degree, I have to get to, I have still a budget remaining of 1.7 trillions, right? Now, and to stay within 1.5 degree, I have only 580 billion budget left, because you obviously see that 0.6 is because of 1 trillion, right? So if I reduce 1 trillion, it becomes 1.7 billion, but that number was to 2017 number, right? We are emitting globally about 40 billion each year. So if we have to limit the bust, we have to limit the bust, stay within the 2050 limit, means basically what also means is that if you have to really reduce the temperature, we have to not only become net zero for both, in all scenarios, you have to actually start becoming net negative, right? For 1.5 degree, based on all these numbers, if you do the reverse calculation and all, for 1.5 degree, we have to at least get to 50% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. And then based on the technologies at that time, you have to start becoming net negative. Only then we will be able to achieve 1.5 degree by 2100 degrees, right? For 2 degrees, we need to get to 50% by 2045, and then the net zero by 2080. And then after 2080 to become net negative, to really get to the 1.2 degree pathways, right? So in both scenarios, it is required that we need to have negative emissions as well, which means the need for geoengineering, nobody is debating that, right? Or need for the carbon removal from the surface is nobody is debating that. And that's why if you look at it, currently a lot of nature-based solution approaches are also getting a lot of attention, because we all realize is that our bus to only reduce or mitigate is gone.
Yeah, right.
We'll have to get to the net negative, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the last section, probably.
Thank you, Rajesh sir. Thank you for appearing as a guest for today. It was lovely session, and I'll definitely share this presentation with them. Sure, Sam.
Any questions on this topics which I've covered, or in general other questions if you may have, I can cover it up, but that's up to you, to the best of my knowledge. Because I also want to just leave one thought, is that I know that probably a lot of people you here are quite experienced people. I think sustainability is one topic which is so vast that no individual can know anything, everything about the subject. And every day I learn new things. So if you share something, you ask something, I also learn in the process, right?
Sure, Rajesh. This is Someshwar. So whatever you explained, I agree with you. So I just wanted to share one thing which I was reading 2 days back. So now there is a big halla on carbon neutrality, the target of 2030, right? Now, if I check the atmosphere, right? If I check the atmosphere, how much carbon is there in the atmosphere? That surprisingly it comes to only 0.4. That also hypothetical. And so if I calculate that 78% is nitrogen, 21% is oxygen, and that 1% includes hydrogen, carbon, and other gases. So carbon is only 0.4%, and because of that, we are doing so much things. So do you agree that there will be impact whatever we are doing? Because we are totally dependent on fossil fuel, and we are not trying to replacing anything for that. But we are working towards the improvement. That is good part. For example, cement, it emits a lot of carbon. We are not replacing cement with anything, but we are trying to okay, we will
Okay,
capture.
okay. I have a bit of a different opinion. The two sectors which you picked up are very hard to abate sectors. But
Okay.
I would also mention is that it's not that we are not doing it. I think there are a confluence of factors needs to happen. First is a responsible consumption. I don't think so. We really talk about responsible consumption. So one example I would give is on a responsible consumption and responsible marketing. I would give an example of Patagonia. So that let's start it from a consumer level, move it to the corporate level then. Now, when you move to the corporate level, you're absolutely right. I would not broad brush all things in terms of saying that nobody is doing anything kind of thing. There are companies which are doing very, very serious efforts. So if I were to talk about in the cement sector, you could go and look at a company called CRH. And for a change, you will find that's the only company which I have come across in the cement sector, which has produced a emission targets which are absolute targets, right? Not relative targets. Most of the cement companies are putting relative targets, and cement is a very hard to abate sector. And we also need to understand is that yes, the technology deployment for cement replacement needs to happen. But what is an alternative today to cement? There's no technological alternative to cement today, right?
Agree.
So
Agree.
it's an hard to abate sector. So to me, I would take a different view. So Someshwar is that Umeshwar is that there are areas where are hard to abate. We need to recognize a problem. Like if you look at ATF, air turbine fuel, aviation sector, there's no alternative to that right now today in the in a foreseeable future, right now. But that technological advances will happen. But there are areas where we have a significant proven technologies like solar, wind, but the adaptations are not happening for them, right? So the thing is that mitigation for them in terms of investing behind them is not happening. You look at in terms of responsible marketing, like as I said, Patagonia, right? There is companies are reporting these numbers, but companies are not pushing in terms of like an Oil India kind of advertisement saying is that don't consume, or like a tobacco companies don't consume my products, right? They're not advertising it like that,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. So do you think 2030 we can achieve the carbon neutrality?
I don't think so. Carbon neutrality we can't even
that's
achieve before 2050. We can't even achieve by 2050 with the given numbers currently which are there, right?
I agree. And
Okay.
just wanted to add one thing, Rajesh. So I was having
Umeshwar sir,
conversation. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Rajesh sir is in the group. You can ask anything. He will reply.
Oh, okay.
You have
Sure.
to think about. Okay, Akshara, Artha, do you have
Thank you.
question which needs answer immediately, because we might have delayed another half an hour? So do you mind putting it in the WhatsApp chat or here?
Sure, we can go ahead, Pratiksha.
Yeah, thank you. Rajesh sir, will you be okay to reply them on the WhatsApp?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Sorry about this. Okay, let us start with the chapter 2. Natasha, we will take your question as well over on WhatsApp.
So I will drop off Pratiksha now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So the second chapter is like quite it's very basic for me, but I know few of you might face some difficulty. First chapter was too lengthy. I would suggest that this week or something you just try reading one by one. Twinkle and I'll help you with the second chapter. Twinkle, can you see my screen? Everybody can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so here we will look into the lot of like definitions and the not specific topic as such, but just the introduction line. That's why I asked in the WhatsApp that do you know United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. In this chapter, I think all this summary they have given about each and every topic which we do as a Yashi consultant or apply in our day-to-day job. We also look at greenwashing. We also look at life cycle assessment. There was no description given as such, but we will try to understand. Okay, so Twinkle, here you go, and yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so we'll start from the first topic, that is sustainability. So we need to understand that sustainability is a very broad term. Like it's just not environment, it is environment, social, and economic. Like under environment, we have natural system preservation, preserving biodiversity. Under social sustainability, we have human rights. Under economic sustainability, we have accessible economic systems to everyone. So yeah, it's a very broad term, and we all know about the sustainable development definition we have been learning since school. That is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So remember this statement, I believe. Then this, yeah, can you move to the next page, Pratiksha, please? Yeah, thank you. So we have corporate social responsibility, that is CR. Most of us are working in corporate, so we are aware of this term. Under CSR, companies undertake social or environmental activities for the wider benefit of society. CSR is different from sustainability. Please remember that. Sustainability is the broadest term, under which there's CSR, ESG, and climate risk. So, like, there's a good chance of getting confused by all these terms because their definition do overlap. So just read it multiple times if required. Make notes, write it down somewhere. So moving, yeah.
Questions on CSR as well.
Sorry.
Do they give questions on CSR?
Honestly, they can give question on anything, on any line of the book.
Okay, no, I'm not worried about
Yeah.
it. Like they give what kind of a question they give it CSR? Like, do they ask for like how do you approach for CSR documentation and everything like that?
Oh no, nothing. Like if there's only this one paragraph of CSR in the book, there will be a question from only this paragraph. There will be nothing from outside of the book.
Okay, fine. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. About this section.
Yeah. About the ESG.
When Global Compact.
I can't hear you, Pratiksha. Your voice is breaking.
Okay, sorry. No worries.
Do you want to take this? Like, were you saying something?
I was just asking that do they know about UN Global Compact?
Okay. Yeah, so UN Global Compact did coin the term ESG, which we all know is environment, social, and governance. So ESG is basically used by the investors to gauge companies. Yeah. So and in ESG, we'll just break this down. E stands for environment, in which a company's relationship to climate change or nature is measured. So this includes companies' carbon dioxide emissions, water usage, or impact on deforestation. Then we have S, that stands for social. Under social, it is examined how a company treats its employees or manages relationship with its suppliers and communities. Then in the end, G stands for governance, which is all about company's leadership, including board composition, executive compensation, how the companies manage its risk, and other internal procedures. So, both non-financial corporations and financial corporations have started reporting on ESG because the shareholders, investors have been asking for it. This is called shareholder engagement, about which we will read in the later chapter. Then there's a term climate change, as someone questioned and we discussed in the last chapter. Climate change is a part of E in the ESG. However, climate change isn't just about environment of like corporates. It does affect everyone, the individual and governments. So it's a broader term and just not E of the ESG.
Okay, fine.
Uh,
I think
yeah.
you guys can read this part. It's very simplified, and the people who are already experienced in this field can understand underwritings, investment practice, and lending in the years basis, how it is important. But if you want, I can share a few notes about this section if I may find in my copy. But yeah, okay. Let's move on to the SDG and other policies because
Right. Yeah, so those like ESG, sustainability, and climate risk are, I know, very easy terms. Just make sure you know the difference between all these three. Moving on to okay. Yeah, moving on to SDG and other policies. So we know that United Nations Sustainable Development Goals were launched in 2015 as UN's 2030 agenda. So what really led up to 2030 agenda? It was not a UN didn't get it right in the first time. There were a lot of hidden trials. So in 1992, 178 countries adopted Agenda 21 at the Earth Summit, which was a global plan for sustainable development. UN at that time, the UN also established the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is UNFCCC. It's a key body for global climate decisions. Like all the major climate agreements, like Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, have been developed by under this UNFCCC's guidance. So it's important that you know about UNFCCC. Then in 2000, the UN introduced the Millennium Development Goals to address issues like poverty and education. By 2015 was their target year, but they failed at this. They did impact a little, but it was very less impact, and they fell short in certain areas, and this was seen as a failed goal. Then in 2015, the UN launched the 2030 agenda that we all are aware of. The 2030 agenda and its sustainable development goals have proven like more influential and impactful if compared to their previous goals by UN, that is MDG and Agenda 21. So this is how we came to the 2030 agenda. Is there any question in this section?
so the people who don't understand the 17 goals, I would love to go on this page and try reading the goal. And there are sub points as well for the each of every goal. So companies which are working in like NGOs or companies who are doing for CSR, they have to each and every company, even startup right now, align their goals into the sustainability goals. So they can choose like 2-3 goals which they have direct impact on. So is understanding SDG goals is like a first narrative to understand each and everything into the ESG. Currently companies also try to even countries try to align their goals with SDG. There is a site where we can find out that which is the country is aligning which what are the goals this country is following and everything. So it is really important. I don't know they asked question on this or not, but yeah, this is really important to understand.
They can ask question on this. So
Any questions?
like there are 17 goals, so they can ask like, so they have explained the goal 4, that is education, quality education. What are the sub targets of this goal? So yeah, there can be a question from this. So just read the goal which has been explained in the book. You don't need to Google other goals and their sub targets. Just read whatever is mentioned in the book.
Stuti, can you just mute him? Okay, I think Rajesh sir mentioned with the nature-based solution targeting a combination of SDG 13, 14, 15. So it was regarding climate change and I think climate change land on earth and land and oceans. No, sorry, not that. Okay, give me 1 minute. life below climate action, life below water, life on land. So I'll be explaining this particular topic to you. Do you know that if we burn something, if we burn plant trunk or something, it emits carbon, because what happened, plants absorb carbon dioxide from the air, which we already know, photosynthesis, and produce chemical energy like sugar and building blocks. And these structural tissues get disturbed when we burn or cut the trees. How? Because this plant like store everything into lumber, but then when plant material burns or decompose, it releases the same amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So even if we think that planting trees is something which we do nicely and showing off to the that we are, you know, restoring earth and everything, but it doesn't happen like the same way. Again, nature based solution targets are really important right now, because task force on nature related task force is also going forward with nature related risk and everything. Again, SBT and science based nature related targets are also disclosing over the both of the targets. And even this nature based solution target understand that systematically planting trees is important. They have given over here a different forest sequestration method, which we already know as a CCSU, is something which humanly made carbon stored, but already there are few forests which absorb this, like in the terrestrial forest, microbes and fungi absorb and sequester carbon dioxide in the soil, like it is shown over here, grassland and mangroves. There are different different ecosystems store carbon, but due to man-made changes, due to everything which man does, and it have impact on the release of a carbon. Even in a mangrove forest along tropical coast, that also provide us with the flood and everything. We get protection due to mangroves, but also due to mangroves restoration, currently each and every like coastal lands are really having a great not having that much impact of climate change due to mangrove forest restoration. There is one in Mumbai, and I have seen they have worked a lot in the mangrove forest in Airoli or in Mumbai area specifically. So I have gone through it. I was in that project, but there are multiple things which you can do. Not only the planting trees is the option. Again, what they have said through the World Wildlife Fund argues that address climate change, increase ecosystem functionality, be science based. That's why science based nature related targets had disclosed, and then synergetic and design and implemented with the local stakeholder and indigenous people. So that's why this all carbon sequestration perspective has changed. And what they are saying, that planting one species of tree in orderly dense row may seem optimal, but this does not produce a functional and biodiverse ecosystem, thus fails a condition. So this is like really important factor which we try to miss, that we just do tree plantation, but doesn't help that way to the atmosphere and to us. So nature based solutions are really important, and we really need to learn about this. I'll share all the references which I have, but you need to take time to go through the reading of everything. And yeah, nature based target are used as a climate mitigation, not as an adaptation, because it is, we are not going to like plants is something which we are planting just because we need mitigation targets. So just focus on that, because recently someone in the like I went to some webinar, and then some guest speaker told that teacher-based solutions are the adaptation for us, but it is not. It is mitigation target, and it needs to have a proper planning and plotting. But yeah, that's all from my side. So yeah, you can take it.
Thank you, Pratiksha. So the next topic is ecosystem services and natural capital. So, like, there's no doubt that the ecosystem services are declining, are being affected, and how the various organizations are affecting it. So, let's just understand what exactly are ecosystem services. There are total 4 ecosystem services. First one is the supporting services, which are fundamental conditions that enable the existence of all other services. Like, we need habitat, nutrient cycling, and soil formation for all other further services. Then the second is provisioning services, which is generation of resources like fresh water, timber, food, which we get from the ecosystem. The third is regulating services, which that is like flood regulation, erosion control. It is like a less tangible than the provisioning services, and we can't like quantify the service. Then the last one is cultural. These are like non-material benefits that human beings enjoy, recreational activities, spiritual activities that ecosystem provides. So, it is. Have you noticed that the organizations and government can clearly assess what risk and opportunities they have through ecosystem services? Like organization, there are companies which do affect fresh water, like their intake of fresh water, how much they are using fresh water does has effect on ecosystem services. Then there are companies which are affecting the river water quality. They are putting their waste in the river and affecting their quality. So there are companies who are affecting ecosystem services, and there is a need to assess this risk they have and also opportunities, like how can they uh, work in a better way to improve the quality of these services. So the most traditional and successful policy that has been followed for ecosystem services has been to put a limit on the use of the services. Like there should be a limit on how much fresh water company can use, how much timber a company can collect from a particular forest. So this policy has been quite successful and is the one that is used regularly by the policymakers. Then can we have natural capital. Let's stay on the natural capital part. Yep, yeah. So there's a term natural capital. It's very related to ecosystem services. It's easy to like get confused between the both, but we need to understand that natural capital is a broader concept than ecosystem services. It includes all of Earth's natural resources like geology, minerals, or fossil fuels. So you can consider natural capital as a stock of assets, and whereas ecosystem services are the benefits we get from the natural capital. A good example in the book is this. Yeah, you can consider forest as a natural capital asset, while the timber, which is an ecosystem service we are getting from the forest, is a service. So yeah, natural capital is a broader term, and ecosystem service is a product we are getting from it. So this was the natural capital and ecosystem services. Is there any question or doubt in this topic? I guess we are good to move ahead. Then there is this topic, sustainability at corporation and financial institutions. So we know that all the corporation and financial institutions have started taking sustainability into account, like how previously the only focus of the companies were to look at their financial performance, to look only on the profit and loss of the organization. But since 1980s and 1990s, there has been a triple bottom line, which means that the environment and social impact has a co-equal status with companies' financial performance, which means all three of them are given equal importance by the companies and need to be considered equally by every organization. Then
So the Royal Dutch is the first organization who coined, who created this profit and principle. Does there have to be choice? Is the first report on the sustainability agenda, right? Is the first Shell, right? Oil company, right?
Right. So there's a case study for it that is like I didn't see any question from it in the practice paper or the actual exam, but yeah, it's good to give it a read.
Okay, have you created questions from this?
So yeah, I have created questions from all the practice paper and question paper I had. I did share the PDF with you. We can share with all of them later after the chapter 2. So, so yeah, we did talk about shareholder engagement in the last section. So, what exactly shareholder engagement is? It is a strategy where shareholders use their ownership influence in companies to encourage positive social or environmental practices. I mean, we see how all the companies are publishing their ESG reports because shareholders have asked to see it. So that's a positive influence the shareholders are putting on the companies. Few of the shareholders are also taking extreme steps, that is disinvestment. Like they are disinvesting from the companies which are affecting the climate. One industry like that is fossil fuel.
It's
So
12.
even that.
Yeah, tell.
Should I continue?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, how this SDGs are applied in the private sector? What exactly is done in the private sector with SDGs? So, we see that SDG has become a significant benchmark for companies and investors. Everyone are looking at SDG, what SDGs a company is following, and how are they reporting it. So, while these focus primarily on societal and environmental outcomes, they do have direct financial implications also. Like so it's just not environment and social. The sustainability is affecting companies financially also. So if you see the reports of some organization, annual reports, integrated reports, or ESG reports, you will see how the companies do refer to SDGs in their reports, and how consultancies offer advisors like to integrate SDGs into business, because the investors and shareholders are very interested in knowing what the organization is doing in the sustainability field, or how exactly their operations are affecting in a maybe in a negative or positive way to the whole sustainability field.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we have the greenwashing and CSR. Very interesting topic and important also. You will definitely get a question from this, either one or two questions from this section. So, under CSR, it is very common to be greenwash. Like CSR do lead to greenwashing, where companies create false perceptions of sustainability. The two main types of greenwashing are decoupling and attention deflection. Under decoupling, the company make empty claims without any real action. They may say that we have joined a sustainability NGO or working towards this goal, but there are no like tangible efforts seen or any results seen. Then there is attention deflection, under which the company hide their unsustainable practices. They may prepare a selective or inaccurate disclosure report. They may deploy misleading text or imagery. So this greenwashing is very common that the companies do follow to prepare like all the green and positive reports. But like since some time, the regulators have become very strict, and they have been regulating this greenwashing very efficiently, and there have been new rules how the companies which the company should follow to avoid the greenwashing. So yeah, there is a lot of regulation happening in greenwashing area, but there is another challenge we have, that is greenwashing. So greenwashing involves well-intending but superficial efforts that may not address the core sustainability issues. Like, for example, there's a very good example in the book which says that buying an electric vehicle where the grid electricity used to power the car comes from the coal-fired power stations. Doesn't make sense. You're still affecting the climate, and you are thinking that I'm using a EV, so yeah, I'm maybe making a positive effect, but you definitely are not. So, the point with greenwashing is people do not know they are like doing this. So there is a need to educate consumers and companies about like what exactly is the scale of sustainability changes and what actions they can make to genuinely make a difference. So there's a lot of education and knowledge that can avoid greenwashing. Yeah. Can you move to the next topic, Pratiksha, or do you want to add something?
This is green.
Uh,
Yeah, is there anyone who wants to talk?
yeah,
Yes.
I
Yes.
had a question. If we can have few examples on both of these things, greenwashing is fairly understandable. Greenwashing, if we can have some examples.
Yeah. So the example you can see on the first page, that is example was the electric vehicle example that I said, that you are buying electric vehicle, but the power you are using to charge a vehicle comes from a coal-fired power station. So it is definitely not making any positive impact on the climate. Then the second example says buying soy milk for environmental reasons when the soya is sourced from suppliers causing deforestation in Amazon. So yeah, you may be using soy milk thinking that you're putting a positive impact in the environment, but at the back of it, like that is the life cycle assessment, the next topic. You will see that it is depleting the forest and it is affecting negatively the climate.
I have examples. Actually, I have created 3 posters on greenwashing on LinkedIn. The first one is like Volkswagen. I think you all must have known this. So in
Yeah.
2015, Volkswagen was caught, cheating emission in the test of installing software and could detect a vehicle was being tested and adjust the emission accordingly. So that was a clean diesel campaign they ran. It was an environmental friendly, and the scandal revealed the company had been doing a greenwashing with that product. Again, the Beyond Petroleum campaign run by BP. So it launched in recent like 2000, and what which suggested that the company was moving away from fossil fuel and towards the renewable energy, but they still were investing into heavily in gas and oil exploration and production in a different manner, and it was showing that they were really interested in renewable energy and their investment was really small fraction in renewable energy, but they showed in their report that they have made a major changes in their companies and policy. But that was the another one, and you also know the Coca-Cola one and the Nestle sustainable cocoa. In the Nestle also they made a commitment. They showcased it everywhere. They run the campaign about sustainable cocoa, but still they were using the forest which was not acquired by them, and also was using palm oil extensively and cutting the forest, and mentioning that they are having sustainable production and sustainable supply chain line. So that was the example from the Nestle. You will find more and more example if you go to like one of the site. I'll provide it after this session. So there are multiple example of greenwashing and greenwashing.
Yeah, so all the examples you mentioned, Pratiksha, are mostly attention deflection.
Yeah,
And that is
yeah.
a very common greenwashing way that the companies adopt. So
Yeah.
you can like go for various examples and case studies if you want for extra knowledge. Yeah.
So, hi, this is Someshwar. So, I have shared one example of greenwashing which recently happened in Germany
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the DWS company. So, it's there in the WhatsApp.
Thank you so much. Sure, everyone can check the WhatsApp group for the example.
Sorry, Twinkle. I have a question from previous learning outcome, where you
Sure.
mentioned that the shareholders are encouraging organization to remove fossil fuels from their portfolio. So, being a shareholder, I want to generate more profit, right? So,
Right.
removing fossil fuel or any other products will decrease my returns, right? So why shareholders are encouraging to remove those area from the portfolio?
Yeah, but yeah, it will lead to less profits, I guess. But the profit, if you get profit, that will affect the climate also. So the shareholders now are concerned about the environment and climate. They don't only want profit; they want a like positive profit, a positive ethical profit, most probably. So they do disinvest from the companies which are affecting the climate. There are a lot of climate friendly and environment friendly organizations, and then they invest in those. So that is a very extreme step, disinvestment. No shareholder or investor do it like directly. There's a positive um, engagement first. They do issue notes to the organized companies and like request for more ESG reporting, more better steps to be taken to cover those aspects. But if there is nothing is changing, then they do take this investment as the last and extreme step.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. We need to move faster, Twinkle.
Yeah, cool. And then the next topic is developing sustainable products and system to.
Can we discuss on the green washing? We all gave example about the green washing, anti-deflection and decoupling. But can we throw light on the green washing concern? Because it's suppose imposing or regulating green washing, that's going to impact the aspiration of the company. So can you just throw light on green washing part?
Sure. As we discussed that green washing is different from green washing, and it is like more difficult to figure out what green organization is doing a green washing, because the organization is the people and all organization are putting effort, like good efforts towards addressing the sustainability issues, but these efforts are superficial and they do not address the core sustainability issues, like the EV example we took.
Can I
That
say something? Can I say something?
Sure.
Chandan sir, you asked this question, right? Currently, I have written like 5 BRSR report of different market cap, market listed companies, and what it does intend to tell that few companies are trying to be superficial, trying to put a picture that they are doing BRSR report, but their data has lot of discrepancies. So I think that is the example when we talk about green washing. So they are trying, so here is the example, they are buying electric vehicle but
Yeah.
using coal fired, but there's the
But
same thing
sorry to interrupt.
BRSR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. The discrepancy in the data and the the superfluous effort. It's something different. I think decoupling is that hiding something, or that I think that's the differentiation.
Yeah, data one is not green washing, that will come under green washing.
So
Yes, it's just
they are
washing. Yeah, if we're having discrepancy in the data, it is called green washing. Green washing
Because
issue.
trust
It
me,
is
Pratisha, those companies know what data they have and what they are putting out. So they are doing it intentionally. So that's greenwashing.
Acha, okay.
And yeah. So and
Yeah.
yes, Chandan sir, you were saying something.
Okay, got it. I think green washing is something different from green washing, sadly.
Yeah, we need to read all that. Yes.
Yes, greenwashing is a completely different from greenwashing. Like under greenwashing, people do think they are like putting in positive efforts to work on the sustainability part. They are doing their efforts, but in actual, they are making no efforts too. They're just putting
Yeah.
efforts, their time and resources, but
Why was
nothing
raising
tangible
question?
is coming out.
Twinkle,
Yeah.
why was raising this question? Because one of the practice said I found one question that one of the sustainability manager has started something implementing the sustainability practices,
Okay.
investing in renewable energy and other things. But the after the when the sustainability audit has happened, they advised to have to improve to the upper up to the mark, because it's not up to the mark. So the question has asked you, the sustainability manager is it's a green washing concern or a green washing concern? It's definitely a green washing, I think.
Like, can you just repeat the question? I
Yeah,
didn't.
question was that one sustainability manager has been assigned tasks to implement the sustainability process. Okay, he has started investing in renewable energies and also reduce the fossil fuel consumption and reporting scope 1, 2, 3, all. Okay, but when the
Okay.
sustainability audit happened, so they find that the mandated has made the sustainability manager that we have to reduce so much of fossil fuel consumption, but they have not on that up to the mark. They have done only 70% of the work has done. So on that case, sustainability audit has raised question that you have committed to reduce the 100% emission fossil from the supply chain. You have reduced only 70%. So that concern, it is green washing or green washing?
I mean, if I believe it can be also attention deflection, that this inaccurate disclosure or decoupling also, like if the organization has set a target, they will do it 100%, but they have not put in efforts to achieve that target. They just made a false promise.
Yeah.
So if it comes on a false promise, that then it is greenwashing,
Okay,
not
understood.
greenwashing. Yeah.
Okay,
If
got it.
anyone has an answer for that question and want to discuss on the chat, then they are welcome. Please, you can put in your opinions about it.
But I think green anti-deflection is something when you start marketing about your activity, that becomes anti-deflection. Because this my question that they are not marketing at all, that we have done so much. It's just implemented so and this internal audit happened. It's not the external audit. Hope I'm getting my point. Anti-deflection is something that we have done it and we have wrongly marketing.
Yeah, but if you look at the decoupling, so this looks more like a false promise. They made a false promise of achieving 100% target, but achieved only, I guess, 30 or 70%, as you mentioned. So it's a false promise that comes under decoupling, which is a type of greenwashing.
Okay. Okay, Ganush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, sir, there is one more thing. Most of the companies, because it's a new thing, most of the companies doesn't understand what the governance which rules it. Right. So it is totally different from what their like traditional business is. So half of the people don't understand also. So I have read few used cases where the greenwashing happened, and in all the cases, the same happened. The people were not aware about what the governance is.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we can move to the next part, that is developing sustainable products and system towards a circular economy. So this section basically talks about life cycle assessment. So life cycle assessment is like cradle to grave assessment of a product or service. So LCA, that is life cycle assessment, is conducted to support the green marketing claims of an organization by assessing their environmental impact. There are 4 stages or 4 phases that LCA involves, that is defining goals and scopes, conducting inventory analysis, assessing environmental impacts, and interpretation of results. So you need to be careful that LCA does not cover S or G of ESG. It covers only E, the environment impact of the product. Also, so what all LCA helps organization to understand is the resource usage of the product, the carbon footprint, and efficiency improvements they can put in to make it a better product. Yeah,
that's all.
okay.
Like,
Yeah, that's all for LCA. And this table,
and
this
LCA
table
is
link.
very expensive and time consuming. I am
Yeah,
doing LCA on biodiesel right now. I don't know where I'm finding the sources, but yeah, it is very expensive and hectic.
Yes. So do read this table 2.2 that links the SDG to the material concerns for corporates. You will get a good overview how the companies use the SDGs in their operations. Then moving to the next part, that is moving towards sustainability as a source of risk. So we know sustainability is a environmental risk, but it is like more than just environmental risk. It is also a financial risk. We have seen that sustainability issues have transitioned from like being seen as an optional to becoming significant sources of corporate risk, potentially leading to financial losses. It also leads to reputational risk. That is like if you violate a CSR policy, it can directly impact a company's reputation and like reputation, and the demand for the products can go down. So it's a big reputational risk for the organization. And like beyond reputation, sustainability issues can materially affect firms in various ways. Like if you exploit a forest or deplete resources, Then mining companies do face incidents like dam collapses, which lead to severe consequences like financial losses, regulatory pressure, even sometimes shutdown of their plants. So it's just not an environmental risk, it's a reputation risk, financial risk, and a lot of the risk. The risk.
Um,
Yeah.
Twinkle, what I am suggesting is that there are few people who wants to like leave before one, so we have to start the breakout room. So they can read this part and ask questions. For tomorrow's session, I'll plan everything, Sirja, and we will conduct next tomorrow's session perfectly. What we will do right now, just I'll open 3 breakout room, and each one of us, you will have our member. So if you need anything, just let me know. I'll passing on the question paper to you, so you can just discuss. Is that okay with you all?
And Pratiksha, the next two topics are quite important. I will like quickly run through them.
Okay, fine.
Because, yeah. So private sector sustainability frameworks and coalitions. So the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, established in 1992, focuses on corporate social responsibility research and shares the best practices that the members can have on sustainability. So we have PRI that was launched in 2006, which serves as a parallel role for investors. So you do also have required readings for this chapter 2, in which we have principles of PRI and PRB explained. So I request you all to read that required reading once. Don't miss it out, because in April exam I did have a question on this. So do read the required reading for this topic. And the next is frameworks for sustainability risk. So how frameworks are important for like a standardized disclosure and accounting. So a common framework is the Sustainability Accounting Standard Board, which was founded in 2011. It provides a cross-comparable sustainability metrics. So it focuses majorly on 77 industries and covers dimensions like social capital, human capital, governance, business model, and environment. Another framework is GRI, that is Global Reporting Initiative. It has transitioned global standards for sustainability reporting in 2016. Then there is TCFD, that is Task Force on Climate Related Financial Disclosure, which will be explained in detail in the further chapters. But these are the like basic frameworks that you need to know, because there will be questions from this in the exam.
So is GRI replacing TFCD?
Oh no! So like they have been since one sustainability field is continuously evolving. So there are new rules every day, but whatever is mentioned in this book, the GARP will ask only this. They won't ask you the latest version. What are the current affairs? What is the current situation of TCFG or GRI or SASP? So you just need to, for the examination, you just need to know this detail they have mentioned in the book. But yeah, for your knowledge and practical experience, be updated with what exactly is happening in this field and frameworks. Yeah, Pratiksha, I think we can do the breakout rooms. That is basically all of this chapter.
Yeah, fine. So I have shared a link on WhatsApp. You have second chapter questions, right? Twinkle, you have.
I created for both chapter 1 and chapter 2. I shared 2 PDFs with you. Like, should I share it again if you want?
Yeah, can you share the one? Because
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I will. Give me a minute.
Okay, I am opening the room. Don't leave your room until we tell you to. So the room 1 and room 2 and room 3 will have each of us. Okay.
fall as snow, and more will fall as rain. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
No,
So
so
what?
plenty of rain is available here. It's mentioned here. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
higher
go ahead.
precipitation, due to higher precipitation here, so it means be that decrease the water ability in the summer. That it is not runoff नहीं होगा ना इसमें.
I think this question, this is very important, like the location of the country. It says Central European country, so one must know that like कि उस particular region में क्या predictions है आने वाले time में, future में कि global warming कैसे affect करेगा. We can see that Italy, France, Germany, they're all having heat waves. So definitely there's gonna be higher temperatures. So that's how I went for C, a lower annual rainfall. Both A and B are somehow related. Like if there's lower rainfall, there could be a lower water availability.
Yeah, but the question mentioned that there was plentiful rainfall in the winters. So if there was more of rainfall and no snow, so there was no snow to be melted, which can like provide the availability of fresh water, running water in the summer.
Yeah, it will not run off. So
Exactly.
yeah, so it is because once the spring will come, it will not run up. Then when summer will come, that availability of water will be issue.
so what is the correct answer?
A is the correct answer. That's why you just go through that runoff topic once again, and you will be able to understand this.
Very important.
Don't worry. At the end of this sheet, there all the questions are answers are explained why one this like see why B is correct and other options are wrong. And there's also mentioned the learning objective and chapter number where you can find the topic.
Okay.
Hari, why did you break that? Now they will just go down and just see the answer.
I mean, that won't help them in the exam, but yeah, so they won't, Pratiksha.
Okay, fine. So this one, can we just continue till 10, like 10 question and wrap it up?
We can
Sure.
do 10, like, or we can move to the chapter 2 practice paper. We can like cover 2 or 3 questions from that.
Okay, do you want me to share that? Okay, just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
I have my college class. Give me 1 minute, huh? Sharing. Can you see my screen?
Chapter 2, yeah.
Yes.
Shall I read it or you will figure
The
it out?
Global Investment Bank discusses comprehensive courses of action before COP27 climate meeting late. As the bank has ESG strategy embedded in the investing, the director of sustainability explained the interrelationship between ESG and climate change to several stakeholders. Okay, which of the following does the director accurately explain the interrelationship between ESG and climate change? Climate change and the sustainable development issue fall in the larger umbrella. Climate change and sustainable development is a larger umbrella of ESG, both at the corporate level, whole climate change is not an exclusive ESG issue. Answer should be issue because changing climate affect all stakeholders and not just located within the B answer. I think Twinkle has directly pointed out this debated discussion.
Yes, because there was an actual question in my exam also from this.
Yeah, answer B.
Yeah, B is the correct answer.
Yes.
Okay, let's move ahead. The CSO for Union Coffee.
Coffee producer discuss the impact of climate change on the acidity. Coffee beans with the company ESG leadership. Senior leadership member asks the CSO about the intersection of sustainability, ESG and climate change. As these overlapping definition, CSO might provide clarity of which of the following correct statement. ESG scope extend across sustainable investing, sustainable development, and sustainable consumption, but does not typically cover. Answer A. ESG scope extend across several industries, including sustainable consumption, where government policy are often discussed. Climate change impact are cross-cutting and fall within the overarching realm of sustainability. Climate change impact cross-cutting and do not fall within the sustainability-based definition. government वाला answer होगा. I think government is not majorly influence the ESG. ESG is
No, they are involved in ESG.
Yeah,
actually
government
they
is
are much more involved in the climate change in comparison to ESG. It is mentioned in group book I read somewhere.
I think answer would be C. Climate change impact are cross-cutting and all fall within overreach sustainability. Everything is sustainable.
Yeah, I think yeah, A answer in my opinion answer A.
Okay, the correct answer is D.
D or B?
D, Delhi. The climate change
Okay,
impacts.
climate impact
Yeah.
are cross-cutting and do not only fall within system.
So like if you check on page number 33, there's a diagram for mapping overlapping definitions of ESG climate change. So climate change is a part of sustainability, but it is a very wide concept. It does affect other aspects also.
Agree.
Climate change is cross-cutting and do not fall within sustainability. Yes. Yeah, page number 33. Yeah, diagram is there. Yes.
This is why I mean C and D are very confusing. This is the reason you need to read the book multiple times. Only one time read won't be able to make you answer this question.
Okay, so how many times you read before?
I believe three times, and I also prepared notes, so I went through the notes multiple times. But the book I read it 3 times.
And how much time it took for you to prepare?
So GARP says 130 hours are enough for the exam, but since I had no background in it, it took me a little more than that. And so this practice paper, I know people who did not check the practice paper before appearing for the exam, and they were completely shocked because they thought there will be direct questions. Just say like after every chapter you have been asked questions, and they're very like
Exactly.
one. So basic questions nahi honge, all the questions will be like these. So do practice the question papers provided by GARP.
And the practice paper which you you practice, how many questions from that came into your exam?
Surprisingly, there were a few questions. They repeated the questions from practice papers. So
How
it would
many
be good.
percentage wise?
I believe 10 to 15% questions were there. So when you read those questions, you just don't need to waste your time in that. You know the correct answer. You can move to the next question. Yeah. Yeah, we can move to the next question, and maybe that can be the last question.
A supervising director at regulatory environmental agency cross-reference the agency's domestic and international reporting obligations with the UN SDGs for internal goal setting. Which of the following correctly describes the UN SDG and their respective target areas?
17 goals and
So it's between B and D.
I think it's D.
I think SDG started in 2015, if I'm not wrong.
2015
No,
to 2030.
2015.
No,
Yes.
2015. And
no, but their goals are 17.
Yeah,
Not
so
16.
yeah, you are right. B
So
and
it's
D.
B or D में कोई
answer
एक
would be
है.
D. Check 2 years 20 to 10, 2030 for assessment.
Yes.
Answer B. Answer B.
I think B.
B
B,
because
yeah.
because the ratchet impact, no 5 years review. Because when
Yeah.
yeah.
Correct. B is the right answer because it's a 2015 with a target of 2030.
Yeah, 5 years after a review. So 2020 is mentioned clearly. So that could be the ratchet impact. But they have
Yes.
decided to review the disclosure. What are the metrics that they have already done?
Oh, no, I mean, what you are saying is NDC, that is different. Well, that is way more complicated. And
That idea, I'm just that idea, I'm just my
yeah,
analyzing.
that may confuse people.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last one, okay?
Yeah. Naveen, asset and answer will be D. Yeah, I have remembered. Answer should be D. This to Naveen case study.
Give us time, Chandan sir. I'm reading. We are reading.
Director notes.
It's 1
I
o'clock.
I think it's a D because they are talking about the investment context and the asset under management by primary. So asset under management is investment. So I think it will be D.
Yes.
Okay, it's D, yeah.
B is a correct answer, and this question has been picked up from a case study that I had to miss because of the time crunch. That case study is on page number 42 of the book. So do read the case studies also. There can be questions from them.
Oh.
Okay, thank you so much. And if you like the session, do let us know. If you want us to improve, do let us know, because I'll be sitting with the next educator at 5 o'clock to discuss about tomorrow's session. And what today happened will not happen again. Plan properly. But thank you so much for
Yeah,
enthusiasm.
it was very nice. It was Twinkle. I just request you to share some questions.
Yeah, and I know I do understand the questions are tough. They look very tough, and you are like most of you were confused between the options. But once you have read the book nicely, thoroughly, it will be easy. Just read the book again and again, and then you will be able to answer this question. Just don't be scared after practicing these questions.
So I have one request. I have got two
Yeah.
requests. One
Yes,
is
sure.
like we need more practice questions because I googled a lot, but I didn't get any good practice questions, right? Because maybe it's a very new thing and
Right,
people are not
exactly.
aware.
Unfortunately, there's nothing online. There are only 3
Exactly.
or 4, and like even if you take a 2020 question practice paper we have, that is different because the course has completely changed after 2020 and 2021.
Exactly. That time it was 900 pages book, but now
Right.
it has it's
200.
a 200.
So
So we need
unfortunately, you don't have many options. You had 2022 and 2023 practice paper that you can go through.
Hanji, so we need more practice question if you can give us for practice.
Someshwar sir, we have added it in the drive. You can check it. Like it Excel sheet से drive open करके आप देख लेना.
हाँ मतलब I need more.
मोर तो मैं आपको एक ग्रुप से मतलब मैंने उठाए हैं उनकी परमिशन से, तो वो मैं आपको भेज दूंगी.
अच्छा हाँ जी प्लीज.
ठीक है, चलेगा. चलो, थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन.
Sorry,
बाय.
how to access the drive? Where is the link?
In Excel sheet. So did you receive our email?
No, I just received only this Google invites, the meeting invites.
No, there is. Can you just text me? Like I'll be dropping my number here.
Yeah, and everyone is like, if you have any doubts with chapter 1 and 2 while reading it and solving the questions, please put it in the group. I am there and I will answer all of them.
Thank you, Twinkle. Okay, let's
Thank you.
wrap this up. Zoom user, please text me. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you.